My best friend wants me to break up with my boyfriend and I don't know why my boyfriend, we'll call him Blake, 25M, and I, 25F, have been together for 3 years. Before we dated, we used to be co-workers at a retail store when we were both 17. The first thing I noticed about Blake when we met was that he never smiled or showed any emotion. He always had a serious, stoned look on his face. He hardly, if ever, showed any emotional sentiments. I don't know how to describe it accurately, but just imagine Eminem or Shadow from Sonic and how they both always have a serious look on their faces. That's how Blake is. Even when customers or our co-workers would try to joke with him, he never cracked a smile or laughed, which would make it awkward for them. However, Blake has always been respectful to those around him and never once raised his voice throughout his whole career. Our co-workers always thought Blake was weird and warned me to avoid him. However, despite all that, Blake and I ended up getting along great and became good friends. I never really minded that he never showed any emotions and still thought he was a good person. He even put up with my loud, extroverted self, lol. Over the years, Blake and I became close, and I would occasionally see him smile or laugh, which I would lightly tease him about when it did happen. On my 22nd birthday, which is on Valentine's, Blake had asked me to come over to his house and said it was serious, and when I got there it was full of decorations and flowers, and Blake was dressed nicely. He gave a long speech about how much our friendship meant to him and that he was grateful he had met me and asked if I wanted to be his girlfriend. I swear it felt like I was in a 70s rom-com movie. It was the first time I had seen Blake so vulnerable. He still had his cute, serious stone face on him, but I could tell he was extremely nervous. I, of course, said yes, and we had been a happy couple since then. Now on to the issue. My best friend, let's call her Sarah, 26F, and I have been friends since we were in 5th grade. Sarah and I were each other's partners in crime. She and I were really close before I met Blake. She had never met Blake before, as at the time he and I were just barely talking, and by the time we graduated high school, she had moved away to stay with her dad in another city, so she never got the chance to meet him. I, of course, talked about him and showed pictures of him and me together when we became closer and started dating. However, she once stated how she found it weird that he never was really smiling or seemed happy when he was with me and that I shouldn't be dating someone who doesn't want to be happy around me. I brushed it off and just assured him that's how he is and that he is actually a sweet guy. Looking back, I probably shouldn't have looked past what she said, but at that time I thought she was just being a protective friend. She had recently come back to our city and wanted the 3 of us to meet together. We decided to meet at a restaurant her and I used to hang out at. When we got there, Sarah and I ran at each other and squealed like little girls while Blake just stood and watched us. When Sarah looked at Blake, I noticed her expression immediately changed, and she awkwardly smiled and shook his hand and only said hi to him. Blake just nonchalantly said it was good to meet her. She then went back to talking to me, completely ignoring my Blake. When we got our menus, Blake couldn't find a meal he would enjoy and just said he would be fine with a small appetizer. Sarah unexpectedly said, "Why? Is nothing here good enough for you? Why would you agree to come here if you weren't going to get anything then?" She tried to say it like it was a joke, but any person can tell it was obviously not. I then defended Blake, claiming he could have whatever he liked and it wasn't a big deal. Sarah then dropped it at that. Throughout our dinner Sarah was ignoring Blake and was only trying to talk to me. Blake just stayed silent and watched us, not really caring about it, as he normally is not a big talker when meeting people. When she did include him, she would seemingly only ask him questions that would only need a one-word answer, and when he did answer, she would just give him side eyes or just say, "Okay then." I could already tell Sarah did not like Blake, but I couldn't understand why. She wasn't directly being rude to him, but I could tell when she was making snide remarks about how he was emotionless and whatnot. At one point she excused herself to the bathroom, and when she left, I asked Blake if he was okay, and he assured me he was okay and just wanted me to catch up with my friend. I apologized for how she was acting, and he claimed he didn't care about it and was just happy I was with my friend. I was relieved he wasn't hurt by what was happening but still felt bad for him. After dinner the 3 of us went for a walk to see the buildings and stores, and Sarah seemed to be more cheerful. We then came across a person walking a small puppy. I love dogs so fucking much, and Sarah and I cooed and were giggling at how cute the puppy was. Blake was just standing, watching us fawn over the puppy. Once the dog owner left, Sarah turned to Blake, and she immediately became angry and asked, "How the fuck could you not even smile for a puppy? Are you seriously that soulless?" I was immediately shocked about her sudden change of tone and was about to say something, but Blake just shrugged and walked away, continuing our walk. I asked her what the hell her problem was, and she immediately apologized and said she didn't mean to yell. Our walk then became awkward. I wanted to just go home, but I also felt bad for Sarah, as she still had something else planned for after our walk that she had paid for the three of us to do, so I thought to just suck it up until it was over. I then had to use the bathroom, and we found a nearby store. I went in, and Blake and Sarah waited for me outside. When I came back, I found Sarah hysterically yelling at Blake. I immediately ran over to them and asked what the hell was going on. Sarah was in hysterics, but she kept yelling, "It's not going to happen. I will never let this happen." I asked her what she was talking about, but all she said was Blake was a psychopath and demanded I break up with him. I looked at Blake, who was just as shocked as I was. I kept trying to ask the both of them what had happened, but neither would answer me, which scared me. People started staring, and I desperately tried to calm Sarah down to de-escalate what was happening. Eventually I told Blake to walk back to the car so we could go home, and I would call an Uber for Sarah. When we were alone, I was trying to get Sarah to tell me what had happened, but she just stayed silent. Blake came back to pick me up, and Sarah was just deathly staring at him, and he kept his head low. I didn't know what was happening and just started assuming they had an argument. Thankfully Sarah's Uber came and took her back to her hotel. Our car ride home was awkwardly silent, but as soon as we got home, I demanded to know what happened between him and Sarah. Blake just stayed silent, and at that point I was irritated with the both of them not answering my question. Blake said he couldn't say what happened but that he was so sorry for what happened. That made me even more confused, and I asked him to please just say what had happened. He only said he swore he didn't do anything bad but that he simply just couldn't say what happened. I then told him I was going to sleep in the guest bedroom as I just couldn't handle everything that was happening, especially since I still had no answer as to what had happened between the two of them. He said he understood and told me he loved me and went to our room. This all happened not even a few hours ago. I am currently lying in the guest room, confused and scared as ever. I know Sarah and Blake didn't really get along, but I don't know what caused such a huge fight that neither can tell me about. An hour ago I got a text from Sarah. I will copy and paste it here. Sarah, I'm really sorry about what happened tonight but please listen to me. You need to break up with Blake. He is a literal psychopath who is only using you. He doesn't deserve you. I'm telling you this because I love you and want to protect you. Please break up with him. I haven't responded to her text as I know if I try asking again what happened between them she won't give me an answer. Reddit, I don't know what to do. I don't know if Sarah had said something to Blake or if Blake had something to Sarah that caused all this but I'm scared that neither of them will tell me. Does Sarah simply just does not like Blake because he doesn't like to show his emotions? Any advice on how I can get the truth or at least some answers would be helpful. TLDR, my best friend and boyfriend got into a fight and now my best friend wants me to break up with him but won't say what happened. Edit, I would like to thank you all for your input and advice. I currently am unable to sleep and would like to clarify some things. Blake is not a sociopath. The reason I added the story of when he asked me to his boyfriend was to give a slight example on how he can be vulnerable and romantic. I did not want to add this as I felt it wasn't my place to say but for backstory Blake and his father did not have a good relationship. All I will say is his father raised him to believe men should show no emotion and it's the reason why Blake is not an emotional person. There are of course times where he would laugh and smile and even cry, he just wouldn't do it as much as an average person would. Despite Blake being an emotionless person he still has been very nice and respectful and loving towards me and has never been abusive or even raised his voice at me. Also, I do not believe Sarah and Blake have ever interacted before they have met last night. Blake has to work today so I will not see him until tonight. I will be speaking to him first before Sarah and I will update as soon as I can. Also I apologize if the story is too long or doesn't sound coherent. English is not my best of language and this is my first time using Reddit. Take care. Edit 2, sorry for the repost. Unfortunately my original post was taken down. Just want to let everyone know I'm okay and still waiting for Blake to come home from work. Sarah has been blowing up my phone since her first text, but I decided not to read her texts in the moment. I want to hear Blake's side of the story first and the way she's going about it seems uneasy to me. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, she obviously knows him. And both hiding things from you. It's unacceptable. Was he her ex or love interest? Maybe she hid it from you back then. Reply, I don't want to say this as I'm now not 100% sure on it but as far as I'm concerned they have never interacted or met before until last night. She never showed any signs other than her being weirded out by him but that's all I can think of. I responds to multiple comments about the possibility of Sarah not being interested in getting to know Blake and being judgment of him. Write their reply, thank you for your reply. The way Sarah has acted with him during our hangout was very unlike her. She never acted this way when meeting our other friends' boyfriends and girlfriends, although it could be because they were more loud and outspoken than Blake was. I'm just hoping I can figure this out. Update: Hey guys, I'm back with a new update. Before I begin, I just want to thank those who took the time to read and give advice on my post. Now with the update, the night I made the post, I had some time to sit and think about everything that happened. I now know I could have handled the situation better, and I shouldn't have let Sarah continue her horrible behavior towards Blake. The fact that both of them were not telling me what was going on irritated me, and I let my anxiety get the better of me. I wanted to hear Blake out first, so I decided not to read Sarah's messages. I had turned off my phone and spent the day on my computer watching Reddit stories and learning how to use it better and going for a run to get my mind off everything. Once Blake came home, I asked if we could talk, to which he agreed. Taking the advice of a kind Redditor, I sat him down and started by apologizing for walking away from him the night before and for not defending him more during the hangout. I assured him I love and trust him deeply and that I will believe what he says to me. Eventually Blake told me what happened. Some of you guessed it right, Blake was planning on proposing to me. The way he described it was that when I left, he confided in Sarah that he was planning to propose to me and asked if she could help choose a ring, since she was supposed to hang out with us again another day. Blake then said Sarah asked if he was being serious, and when he said he was being serious, she then started screaming and lashing out at him. She screamed at him that this engagement will never happen. You don't deserve her. And that's when I came outside. To say I was beyond shocked would be understandable. I then hugged him and once again apologized and asked if that was the reason he didn't want to tell me. Blake said yes, and it's because he didn't want to ruin the surprise. He then apologized for not just telling me, saying it wasn't worth keeping it as a surprise if it was causing us problems. I told him it wasn't causing us any problems and that I love him even more now. We both then hugged it out and made up. Blake then asked what Sarah had said about the situation. I admitted to him that I didn't read anything she had sent and just turned off my phone as I was scared of what she had said. After a while I finally turned on my phone, and I honestly wished I didn't. When Sarah said she wasn't going to let this engagement happen, she really did mean it. I don't know she could do this to me, but now she's got our friends, my sister, and my aunt involved and even involved my estranged dad, which was a real low blow. For context, my dad and I are no longer on speaking terms due to an incident with my former stepmom. They're no longer together. After finally reading my family and friends' messages, it sums up that Sarah had told them I'm with psychopath and that I'm refusing to leave him even when she tried to help. So now, the people who once knew the sweet, loving Blake that I know think he is now a crazy person and are begging me to leave him. I was, and still am, beyond furious. I had spent the whole night trying to clear the air with everyone, except my dad. Unfortunately, my aunt and some of my friends are still agreeing with Sarah, which is breaking my heart. There were so many texts from Sarah, but it ranged from her begging me to answer her to her being mad that I was taking Blake's side and not hers to her apologizing for involving my dad but saying it was for my own good. I had only sent her one text, and it goes as follows, copy and pasted. I don't understand how you expect me to take your side when you never told me why you said what you said. Blake had already told me what happened, and I can't even imagine what your side is. I can't believe you fucking lied to our friends and my family, and for you to involve my dad. How the fuck do you even have his number? Above all, you disrespected my relationship and my boyfriend. Fuck you. I have since blocked her. She never told me why she wouldn't tell me what happened, so I still don't know what her motive was on that part. Other than to try to break us up. Not a great update, but Blake and I are doing okay. He has been very understanding and patient throughout all this, and I couldn't be more grateful for him. I know this might not be the end of this nightmare, so I may update again soon. I just don't know how to go about this. How can I convince my friends and my aunt that Blake is a good person? Should I somehow get Sarah to admit she was lying? Once again, thank you all for your advice. To the one Redditor who said my story was fake and that I shouldn't be with someone like Blake, I just want you to understand that these types of cartoonish situations can unfortunately happen to us. And also Blake is one of the best things that has ever been brought into my crazy life, and I couldn't imagine my life without him. So screw you. Anyways, I may see you all again soon. Take care. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, glad you blocked Sarah out of your life. And I'm glad you and Blake are doing better. I just have a few questions and suggestions. If you don't mind sharing. Is your mom still in the picture? Or have you also cut contact with her? Did your dad know about Blake before you cut contact with him? Have you ever had a previous relationship before Blake? If so, has Sarah ever acted this way before? Do you know Sarah's sexuality? I said this in your original post, but maybe she's freaked out about the proposal because she might like you. Has she ever shown any signs that she perhaps might have feelings for you? Maybe try sitting your family and friends down to explain the situation better. If you were able to convince your sister and some of your friends that Blake is a good boyfriend, maybe try asking them to help you to convince your aunt and your other friends. Unless you don't care anymore, if you want to find out why Sarah wants to break you guys up, maybe you can meet with her in a public place and make her explain everything and why she's been acting like this. Reply: unfortunately my mother passed away when I was young, but remembering her, I know she would have gone bananas if someone was trying to stop me from having an engagement. Yes, my dad did meet Blake, but at the time he was not my boyfriend. At the time my dad simply didn't care about the friends I had. When he met Blake, he did think he was creepy and asked if he was depressed, to which I of course shut down quickly and since kept Blake away from my father. I've only ever had one date when I was 15 before Blake, but never a relationship. He is my first real boyfriend. Sarah did help me get ready for my first date, so I guess she was excited for me. She did not act out like how she did with Blake. As far as I'm concerned, Sarah is straight. She has never confided in me that she might be any other sexuality. She has had boyfriends in the past. She may have been touchy with me, like touching my hand or hitting my shoulder when we share a laugh, but that's about all I can think of. Thank you so much for your suggestions. My sister is currently living with my aunt and I have asked her if she can help me talk to my aunt about this. Did Sarah have her fair share of boyfriends? Could she be jealous of OOP being in a relationship with Blake? Reply: Sarah has had her fair share of boyfriends before. Her last relationship lasted a year before they broke up, which was about 2 years ago. She had moved away from our city after we graduated, so we would mostly FaceTime every other day. This is the first time I've seen her since after we graduated. Blake has been my only boyfriend, so she hasn't had the chance to nitpick people I've dated, but she's never done this to our other friends' boyfriends and girlfriends. I have a feeling this could all be coming jealousy, but why it's only directed at me is what's confusing me on that theory. Commenter 2: if your family and friends are so ready to believe her, that tells me you haven't introduced Blake to them. Or not very often. Bit of life advice: him hiding all his emotions is not healthy and will come out to bite you in the ass at some point. He keeps everything bottled up, likely part of that whole "men just get on with it, they're not allowed to cry, laugh, show love or any other positive emotion. They can show only anger, disdain and arrogance, in short, negativity." If you have kids, if you have sons, will you want them to grow up with this same mentality? He needs to learn to trust and express himself more, or this kind of thing will happen more often. It will damage his ability to go further in life, because no one trusts a closed-off, emotionless person. Whether he gets therapy or just starts to loosen up, he needs to learn to be more outwardly expressive. The topic of us having kids has came up before, and of course Blake does not want our kids to be emotionless or want to hurt me, even though he never has, which is what he's tried to go to therapy for. Having that said, it's not easy to undo almost 20 years of having your dad mentally abuse you and drill into your head that men don't show any emotion, and a lot of his therapists haven't helped him. He doesn't want our kids to grow up like he did, so he is still trying. I apologize for not mentioning that part in the post. He does show some vulnerability moments with me. For example, I've seen him cry, full-on laugh, and smile. It's simply just not easy for him to do it to people he's not close with. Commenter 3: I don't know. Why would he ask someone who had been openly hostile to him all day to help pick a ring for you? Reply: when I was a little girl, I used to love to wear jewelry. Though some were plastic and fake, I would always wear rings and necklaces. Sarah and I even had matching friendship bracelets. When I went into 8th grade, I stopped wearing jewelry. Since I lost an important ring, I have feared of losing any other piece of jewelry since. The reason Blake asked her was because we were supposed to go to the mall for our next hangout, and since she was the only one who saw my jewelry phase, except my sister and my aunt, he wanted her opinion on what he thought I would like. He said had she never visited us he would have asked my sister, but since Sarah was already here he wanted to quickly get the ring. Though I now would have preferred if he had waited to just ask my sister, but it melts my heart that he couldn't wait. Commenter 4: I'm guessing those family and friends have always had reservations around his personality, but now that shit-faced Sarah is jumping and hollering around, it's made them think about different interactions with him and blowing them out of proportion. Not that she is owed it, but maybe Aunt, knowing that he comes from an abusive family, if she doesn't already, will help her understand the way he holds himself more. People are so shit, but I'm happy for you both. Did he actually end up proposing or? Reply: she doesn't know about his past, so maybe explaining it could help, but I only would want to do it if Blake is open to sharing it. Thanks for the advice. As for proposal, no, Blake didn't propose yet. He doesn't have the ring, so he won't be able to do it yet. He's a little upset that the surprise is ruined, but I've assured him he doesn't need to be, as I will be surprised the day he goes down on one knee. I'm already squealing at the thought. Update 2. Hey Reddit heads, I'm back again. Sorry for the wait. I'm here with another update. Welp, here we go again. After my last update, Blake and I had a discussion regarding the issue with my family and friends. In my last post I stated that Sarah has told my sister, aunt, estranged father, and my friends that Blake was an abusive partner who was a sociopath and that I was refusing to leave him. I invited my sister over and asked her what exactly Sarah had said to her about Blake and me. My sister told me that Sarah had told her that while we were hanging out, Blake had been acting cold and rude towards me. She claimed he was ignoring me and lashed out when I tried to talk to him, TF. She then supposedly tried to tell me he was acting toxic towards me and that I should leave. To which I, supposedly, refused and told her to mind her own fucking business. Then when I left, Blake had told her he was going to marry me, and that's when she lashed out. So other than that last part, she told a whole big fat lie. After some confirmation from other friends, it was clear that's the story she told. I was pissed. And so was Blake. Especially since his proposal was ruined. Some commenters and even my sister suggested I get everyone who was told this lie to meet with me and clear the air. So we decided to do that. I had made a group chat of those that had contacted me about Blake. Besides my dad and the others, I was able to convince and told them that I needed to have a face-to-face talk with them all and that this all needed to end. As much as I wanted to just do it in text, I wanted them to all see how serious this was, so we all mutually agreed to meet on Monday night. Come Monday night, after everyone sat down, I started off by saying how amusing it was how they all instantly believed Sarah over me and how angry and disappointed I was in them. I then told the real story of what happened. On how Sarah acted towards Blake and every word she said. I spared no detail. I then made it crystal clear that Blake was a good boyfriend and still the same good, caring person they met, and I'm not going to go out of my way to prove it, especially if they're going to believe someone who had only met Blake once over me. I ended my ramble by stating that anyone who tries to tell me to break up with Blake again or call him any names will be cut off. Thankfully, they all finally believed me and have apologized to Blake for how they acted and to me for automatically believing Sarah. Though I mainly just wanted them to apologize to Blake. I thought that would be the end of it. I was able to convince everyone that Sarah was lying. I had Sarah and my dad blocked, and Blake and I were as happy as ever. But I spoke too soon. On Thursday, while I was at work, I got a notice from our security team telling me my girlfriend was here to see me, HUH. I obviously knew who it was, however, I went down to see her anyway, as I feared if I didn't go see her, she would lash out like how she did with Blake. When I saw her, she looked happy to see me, but I was pissed. I told her she needed to leave and never try to come near me and not to dare to go near Blake, or I was going to call the police. She started her crocodile tears and told me this was the only way to talk to me. She told me after I told everyone the real story, they all got mad at her for lying, and most of our mutual friends cut her off. I told her she deserved it for trying to ruin my relationship. She started to apologize and told me she didn't want to lose me and that she wanted to explain herself. At that point I was already scared and embarrassed as she started getting loud, and we got some stares. I told her she had her chances to tell me her side. Instead, she chose to spread a lie and try to turn everyone against Blake. Again she kept trying to apologize and said she didn't mean for all this to happen. I gave her one last warning to leave, or I will have security make her leave. Thankfully and surprisingly, she did leave. I was on edge the rest of my shift. Afraid my boss would have come in and told me what he saw. Or that Sarah would have come back. Then I kept getting messages from a random number, calling me a stupid B-word and that they hated me. I had no idea who it was from. My strong guess was my father since it sounds like him, but every time I blocked the number, a new one would text me. After I got home, Blake was waiting for me and asked what was wrong. I confided in him what happened. I don't know why I became so emotional, but I started to cry. I honestly was just too stressed out by everything that was happening, and I had a small fear all this would make Blake break up with me over all this. What did this beautiful man say? He reassured me that was never going to happen and that I was his girl, and that he smiled on the inside the night I was defending him to my friends and aunt. To the Redditor who DM'd me telling me I don't deserve Blake, you are right. I really don't deserve such an amazing boyfriend. I thank my lucky stars every single day that I was gifted such a gentleman. Ever since then I have been getting a lot of unknown calls and texts. I have taken screenshots of all of them before blocking, as I will probably need to file a police report. My sister and some of my friends suggested I meet with Sarah and have her admit everything she's done and even finally get her side of the story. Blake told me to choose whatever I feel safe with. After talking long and thinking about it with Blake, I have decided to go with meeting her. I had unblocked her and told her I was open to hearing her out now on the condition we meet at a public place, and she told me the full truth. I had sent that message a few hours ago, and she hasn't responded, which is scaring me. I know you all were probably hoping this update would be about Sarah finally telling us what's going on. I am strongly hoping she will agree to the meeting so I can finally understand everything. Do you all think it's a good idea to meet up with her? I would love to hear your guys' theories on what Sarah will tell me since my sister already has so many LOL. Before I end this already long post, I want to thank all of you again for your comments and suggestions. A lot of you have been helpful. I also wanted to clarify some comments. To the 90% of you asking if Blake might be autistic. To that I don't know. I don't know if he's ever taken a test to confirm it or if he has but never told me, but I will not push him to do either if he doesn't want to. And yes, he has tried therapy before, but it didn't help him as most of his therapists weren't helpful to him. He is, however, currently looking for a new therapist. Secondly, this is the last time I'm going to say this, but Blake is not abusive or a bad person. Say it with me now. I cannot stress or give any more examples of how many times he has been nothing but a good and considerate person. Blake is my gentle giant, seriously, he's very tall. It really saddens me all the accusations people like him get just for not showing any emotional sentiments. Yes, we have had small arguments and fights early in our relationship, but what relationship hasn't? Never has he even raised his voice at me. Thirdly, to those asking why I haven't heard Sarah's side yet, it's because she wouldn't tell me her side. From the night the event happened, I literally went to her first to ask her what was wrong, and she even had the chance to text me literally anything if her problem was Blake being nearby. But she didn't. Instead she goes and not only tells people lies, but then involves my dad. I will now soon be hearing her side, if she actually tells me this time. And lastly, to those of you who were making fun of me for saying to think of Blake as like Eminem or Shadow, I'm sorry, okay? I'm not good at describing someone. 2 weeks before my first post, we had seen the new Sonic movie. I grew up watching and playing Sonic LOL, and Shadow pretty much reminded me of Blake. So please give me a break. Anyways, I will obviously be back with another update after my conversation with Sarah. Wish me luck and take care. Relevant comments. Does you think Sarah will bring the dad to the meeting to confront her about Blake? Reply, even if she does, I will not care. I only want this meeting to have her confess to the lying and possibly the unknown calls, if she's the one doing it. Commenter 1, meeting with Sarah feels dangerous. Like the previous person said, don't go alone if you do meet up with her. And also don't leave your home and vehicles unguarded at this time, because Sarah sounds absolutely deranged. She will not tell the truth, ever. And she might have people on her side that she has convinced. Please file a police report, because this whole situation sounds very unsafe. Commenter 2, if you are finally going to see Sarah, please don't let yourself be convinced to meet in a private place. Talk in a public place and don't go alone. Go with someone who can help you in case something physical happens. Also, record the conversation so she can't lie again. Protect yourself in every possible way. Commenter 3, someone showing up at your place of work to make drama or, worse, trying to do an intervention for someone experiencing domestic violence has crossed so many lines. If you were actually in a DV situation, this is the kind of behavior that could escalate it and get someone killed. I am happy you are in a loving relationship, but this is not a person acting rationally unless she is deliberately trying to hurt you. There is no angle from which her behavior is appropriate. When I had something similar happen to me, my HR worked with me to get me extra security and the police notified. If you do see this person, please have a safety plan and do not go alone. If you can, record the interaction. Stories number 2, Aita for causing a woman who badmouthed me at work to get fired. I kinda already know what people's answer to this would be, but I'm just asking to make sure. A bit of a backstory. I'm 24M, born and raised in this fairly small town, which is surrounded by towns smaller than ours. People from surrounding towns come over to get their degrees/diplomas from my local university and college, because theirs don't have good ones. My town is big enough to be a hotspot to surrounding smaller towns, but it is still small enough that most people know each other. In fact, most families know each other generationally. Now to my situation. I'm 24M and work as an advisor at our local bank branch. About 2 months ago, a 23F was hired as a clerk. She was from a surrounding town and had graduated from our local university a few months ago. For the first month, everything went well. She joined our friend circle and there were no issues whatsoever. About a month later, one day while leaving from work, she pulls me aside and asks me out on a date. I declined politely, reminding her that I was married. Most of my coworkers and I have known each other since our high school days, if not earlier. My wife was part of this same circle, and my wife and I have been together since we were 15. This topic had come up before, and I always have my wedding band on, so I found it weird that she still chose to ask me and not any of the other guys who were single, but I brushed it off and thought that was the end of it. That was a weekend, so on the next Monday when I come to work, halfway through my shift one of my other coworkers, 24F, tells all of us that the 23F told her that I pulled her aside and asked her out and wasn't taking no for an answer. She said I had started stalking her on Snapchat and Instagram. Here's the thing, my coworkers knew I didn't even have Snapchat or Instagram, and they know how close my wife and I are, so they realized she was full of shit. However, there were a couple of coworkers who weren't as close to me who may have believed her. I told my coworkers not to do or say anything to her, and I told them the truth about what had actually happened. I told them to ignore what she was saying and just agree with whatever she said, because I did not intend to make this a big issue, and I told them she was just being childish and didn't know how to deal with rejection. Around 2 weeks pass and my dad calls me one day and tells me he needs to speak to me. I go to my parents' house and my dad tells me a friend of his, who is a client at the branch, told him about how I stalked a girl and she was looking to quit this job for another, and asked if the friend could help her by hiring her into his company. After I told my dad about what actually happened, I decided that I had to stop her from badmouthing me and reported to HR the very next day. When I told HR that clients were getting involved, of course they took it serious and investigated. The HR lady questioned me, my coworkers and the 23F scumbag as well. Obviously everybody backed me up, and the camera footage showed her stopping me, and not the other way around, so she was put under the hot seat with HR. At first, apparently she was adamant I stalked her, and she showed HR an Instagram account with my face on it. Here's the kicker, that photo was very conveniently the only photo of me on one of my other coworkers' profile, which she followed on Instagram. She had made a fake account and texted herself shit, to be believable. She was fired by HR on the spot, for spreading rumors with malicious intent and for disrupting the work environment. She was on her probationary period, so no severance or any pay. Since I live in a town where people know each other, the news has been spreading quick. Her job prospects here are null and void at this point. This is the only reason I'm questioning whether what I did was right. On the one hand, I'm happy as ever that I got my revenge, but on the other hand I don't know if I took it too far and should have just confronted her first. Edit, thank you everyone for the comments. As I mentioned in the first line of this post, I had a feeling I knew the answer, and all the comments have reiterated the same, so I'm at peace now. As a lot of comments suggested, if not her, at some point HR would have heard about this and potentially punished me. Thank you all for helping me clear my conscience. I also agree, I should have gone to HR as soon as my coworkers told me the first time. I just gave her the benefit of the doubt. Lesson learned. This was the first time I've dealt with something like this, which is why I needed the advice clarification. Stories number 3: AITA for grounding my daughter and canceling her senior trip after I found out she was cheating on her boyfriend. I have 2 daughters, Lizzie, 17F, and Mackenzie, 14F. Their dad and I divorced a few years ago after I discovered he was having an affair. I have the kids most of the time, and their dad has them every weekend and during the summers. Lizzie has been dating Jacob, 18M, for over a year now. Jacob is constantly at our house. He's a sweet, good young man, and I believe he'll be valedictorian of their class. However, a few weeks ago, I overheard Lizzie on the phone with a guy, clearly flirting. At first, I thought it was Jacob, but then I heard her say, Brandon. I realized she was talking to someone else. Then a week later, she mentioned to me that she was heading out to hang with a friend, and when I looked out the window, I saw her get into a car and greet a guy with a kiss. It wasn't Jacob. Even after that, Jacob continued to come over, hanging out with Lizzie. He and Lizzie still acted like a couple, holding hands, laughing, and spending time together, just like they always had. I felt disgusted knowing my daughter was being a two-timer. After Jacob left that day, I confronted my daughter. I asked her point blank, "Are you cheating on your boyfriend with another guy?" She said it was none of my business and that her personal life was hers only. I told her she was wrong and that I raised her better than to treat people like this. She told me she was bored with Jacob and that Brandon was more her type now. I told her that if she wasn't happy, she should just break up with Jacob. She said she didn't know if she wanted to be with Brandon or if she was just having fun flirting and teasing. I told her cheating was unacceptable and wrong, and as a consequence, I grounded her. I also told her she wasn't allowed to go on her senior trip with her friends. She obviously did not take that too well and has been at her dad's place for the last couple of days. My ex-husband called me, saying I was being unreasonable not letting her go on the trip and that her and Jacob was just a high school thing. He then told me I needed to put my bitterness aside and stop punishing his daughter. I told him I was teaching our daughter right from wrong, and that actions have consequences. Comments. Commenter 1. Is your daughter aware of the reason for the divorce? Reply, yes. Commenter 2. I'd recommend explaining that since cheating broke the family, you won't, under any circumstance, tolerate her cheating on her BF and emphasize the strain it puts on your relationship with her. Explain the pain you felt after finding out about the ex-husband's affair, and how her BF deserves none of that just because she feels bored. You could also say that she's entitled to her own decisions, but her cheating severely disappoints and hurts you. Of course you know your feelings better, but I tried to give a rough framework for letting her know the actual weight of her actions, heartbreak for BF and a major problem in her relationship with her mother. Make her think about whether the momentary excitement is really worth the cost. This should work better than punishment, at least in the long run. Commenter 3. Her wording was interesting. I almost feel like she asked her dad why he cheated on her mom, and that was his response. My nephew did something similar after his parents divorced, and it was like he opened his mouth and his father fell out. Commenter 4. She will probably learn to be better at cheating. What you're doing is not wrong, but I don't think it will work. Commenter 5. I am probably older than you. Here's where I'm at. Cheating is a selfish, thoughtless thing to do to someone you ostensibly care about. However, dating is a personal journey and your daughter is in HS. I think discussion about her bad behavior is fine. Maybe asking her how she'd feel if Jacob was seeing some other girl on the side. Perhaps even thinking about telling Jacob the truth when he next comes by. However, her bad behavior with a boy isn't something to be grounded over. You are taking out your hurt and anger at your ex out on her. That's not fair or good parenting. She's too old for that BS. If she was texting and driving, you would take her car keys because of safety. Staying out past curfew gets a phone taken. Being a bad GF isn't a safety issue, and if you failed as a parent and she doesn't get it that cheating is bad, grounding her isn't going to teach her a lesson, except that you overreact and have anger management issues. Teens do stupid selfish things, it's part of being hormonal and a young adult. Most will grow up and grow out of such behaviors, and 5 or 10 years down the line, she might very well be ashamed of herself. Commenter 6 NTA. Your post sounds like Lizzie's a daddy's girl and he's been green-lighting her behavior. Reply, he's definitely the fun parent. Dad gives them money and takes them on trips while I do the actual parenting. My youngest needed a physical exam for soccer tryouts and he couldn't even be bothered to do that. Commenter 7. Maybe it's time for Dad to take Lizzie most of the time and you enjoy her presence during the weekend and summers. I'd hate for her to influence the youngest to behave in such unscrupulous ways. Good luck, OP. You're a great mom. Maybe even consider telling Jacob or his parent about Lizzie's actions. When I got cheated on, I wish someone had told me sooner. Update. I received a lot of good advice from my original post and wanted to provide an update. My daughter has been at her dad's house since my last post. I called her saying I'm reconsidering canceling her senior trip, but she needs to tell me what's going on with this new guy, Brandon. She reiterated that it's not serious and she's just having fun. I told her she needs to decide which guy she actually wants to be with. She said she doesn't want Brandon, but he's fun and Jacob can be too serious and controlling. She likes how chill Brandon is. She kept saying she doesn't understand why I care so much, that I'm supposed to be on her side, and that I'm acting like Jacob is my child, and not her. I told her that wasn't the issue. The issue is that cheating is wrong, and she's hurting Jacob, who she claims to love. She says she's not hurting him because he doesn't know about Brandon. I told her she's going to have to tell him, and only then will she be allowed to go on her senior trip. She said she couldn't do that. She still wants Jacob, but he can be annoying sometimes, and she needs a change of pace. I told her it was wrong to use both of these guys. I asked her if Brandon goes to the same school, and she said no, that he isn't in school at all. I tried pressing her on how old Brandon is, but she wouldn't give me a clear answer. She just kept saying he's not that much older, but not in school. After the call, I contacted my ex-husband to express our concerns about this new guy and how secretive our daughter is being about him. He told me I need to stop being a helicopter parent and let our daughter make her own mistakes and decisions about her love lives. I told him we don't know anything about this Brandon guy, and how can he not be concerned about him? He said he trusts our daughter and that she is nearly an adult and that I'm just being controlling and projecting my issues onto her. I told him with how little we know about this Brandon and her not willing to at least break up with Jacob, there is no way she is going on the senior trip. My ex-husband got upset saying I cannot make these decisions on my own and that she is his daughter too. He told me he'll be paying for the full senior trip and that I need to back off if I want our daughter to ever come back home. Comments. Commenter 1: I think your mistake is you're speaking to your daughter about this in terms of how it is bad for Jacob. That's why she thinks you're acting like Jacob is your child and you're not on her side. You need to explain to her how your concern is about what this behavior is doing to her and your concerns about how she is going to get hurt when this blows up in her face. Commenter 2: this. She's also hurting herself. Doing the wrong thing becomes easier the more you do them. You corrupt yourself. Commenter 3: your daughter learned from your ex that cheating is not a big deal, and many people commenting on your post seem to think it's not your responsibility to teach your daughter right from wrong. I don't know if canceling the senior trip is the right move, but I do know that your daughter doesn't deserve to have a partner if this is how she treats them. Commenter 4: let her live with her father. Let him deal with her sneaking around with an unknown man and the consequences that can happen from it. Stories number 4: Aita for ghosting my ex-fiance's dad after she said no and left me at the altar. I 21 was orphaned around 6 years ago in March of 2019 after a horrific car accident where my whole family were unalived. At that time I was in a 2-month relationship with my now ex-fiancée and she stood with me more than anyone else did. And her whole family took me in as one of their own, but especially her father. He treated me just as he did his 2 sons, if not even better, and I loved him and still love him as a dad, and I've been working with him for over 2 years now because he's a lawyer and I'm studying law, and over here you have to work in a law firm to get experience in order to graduate, and you usually don't get paid for it, but he pays me minimum wage, which is way more than he has to, and I love him for that. Living alone for that long however was lonely, even though I had a loving second family, but I wanted marriage for her to move in with me and to not be alone anymore, and when I proposed last year she happily accepted and we kissed and her family were so happy for both of us, and then our supposed wedding came in this past June. And in front of our whole family and friends she said no and ran outside crying, and I just stood there feeling like this was all just a dream, but no, it was reality. She destroyed me that day. Her parents went after her as I stood there seeing all those people whispering and looking at me, and I just snapped. I went home and threw all her stuff away that was already there and then went straight to the airport to go to our honeymoon alone because it was expensive as hell and most of the trip was non-refundable and I had already lost a lot of money in the failed marriage. Her family kept trying to get in contact with me over the next 2 weeks, but I deactivated all my socials. Even after I returned home I couldn't bring myself to see any of them, so I even avoided work. I live in a small village where everyone knows everyone and everyone here talks, and ever since that day people made me this evil bastard that forced this innocent little girl into marrying, but she heroically saved herself, which is all bullshit. I never even raised my voice over her. Life then went on and I found another lawyer to do my internship with, and he was nowhere near as good as my ex-fiance's dad, but it wasn't that bad, and they stopped trying to reach out to me and people stopped talking about the whole thing and it felt like it's just moving on. When suddenly around 2 weeks ago I was chilling at home alone at night and her dad came over. I of course welcomed him in and offered coffee and he accepted. Before we could talk he started apologizing for his daughter, saying she got cold feet at the last second and refused. And that he too wasn't proud of her and wasn't happy about the whole situation, and I told him it was none of his fault and that I'm sorry for ghosting him, but it just was painful to be around him, especially since she looks so much like him, even though I still love him. He asked me whether I like to come back and work with him even if I just want our relationship to just be a work relationship because he loves me like a son and doesn't want to lose that, and I told him I'd think about it. Am I the asshole because of how I reacted, and should I return to work with him? Any help would be appreciated. Update: sorry my second account got banned and this one probably will too, but I wanted to give you all an update. So after reading all of your comments I decided to talk to him, and I did. We went out to a local coffee shop and talked. I told him I'd love to work with him again, but with only one condition, which is to not mention his daughter and what she's doing with her life, and to please not invite me to events she'll be present at, and he accepted. He told me that he too was embarrassed and shamed after the wedding and that he's sad and disappointed it didn't work out between us and that he understands why I don't want to hear about her. Then he asked about how I'm doing and where will I be celebrating the new year, and I told him I'll do it alone at home, which was the first time I ever did it because for the last 5 years I always celebrated with them, and he was sad and said he'd have loved to celebrate with me as his son-in-law, and I told him to say happy holidays to the whole family, except her of course. Then we left. Thanks for all the comments and love, and happy new year to all of you. Update 2: hey there. I wasn't expecting to make another update on this, but here we go. Earlier today her dad talked to me and asked if he could come over, and I accepted, and he came over with a gift basket full of chocolate which I quite liked. He told me that he just wanted to let me know that there was a second guy that my ex was seeing at the time, which is why she said no and left me, and that he was so ashamed to tell me that and so embarrassed in his daughter that he said she got cold feet. I told him that I had suspected so and that it wasn't his fault. I asked him whether or not he has heard what was being said about me after the wedding in the village, and he said that there were also people talking about his daughter and that she's a bitch for doing that, and I asked whether he could stop and deny those rumors that I was abusive, and he promised he'd help me and deny them. I also asked whether he could recompense with some of the money I lost in the wedding because I need serious therapy and it's really expensive over here, and I put almost all my money into the wedding, honeymoon and our house, and he agreed to give me half of the wedding costs, which would be more than enough for me, and I thanked him for that. He also said that the guy his daughter left me for has already broken up with her and she is regretting leaving me for him, but he understands why I don't want to go back to her, and he promised me that it won't affect my internship with him, and I rerun to work with him next Sunday, which I'm thankful for because I hate staying home. Thanks again for all the love and support. Stories number 5. I ruined my life by seeing a prostitute. Hi, English is not my first language, but I will try to explain everything. I am 31 years old, and I never had a girlfriend. I had problems when I was younger. I suffered bullying, anxiety, and then social phobia. I don't want to make excuses or justify what I did. I always considered myself a good person, but last year I was on my lowest point and I did a poor decision and I lost my virginity to a prostitute. I regretted so much. I think I ruined my life. My dream was having a girlfriend and then create a family. The worst thing is, after what I knew that I was not looking for sex, I was looking for love. It's over. Couple of weeks ago, I could save some money, around €1,000. I don't have a good job so I cannot save a lot. So, I went to the same woman, and I gave her the money. I told her that I was so sorry for what I did, and that I didn't expect her to forgive me, and no amount of money could forgive that I did. Obviously she was surprised, said thank you, we cried, hugged me, and we talked a little bit, then I left, and I felt kind of better, but on the other hand I felt much worse, because I couldn't imagine how I was able to do that. I managed a little bit to move forward. Right now I am stuck. I know that having a girlfriend would be difficult because of my past, but I have this desire inside of me, at least to try it. The thing is, if someday I have a date, I could not hide my past on the first date, I just couldn't. And on the other hand I just hope I don't have a date, because I feel so ashamed. I just need some advices. What would you do in my case? I am so lost. Thank you everyone for those kind words. Stories number 6. My girlfriend's parents surprised me with a visit overseas. I'm considering breaking up with her. Title: Aita. For being upset, my girlfriend put an air tag on my motorcycle to prove a point to her mom. I've never made a Reddit post on this sub before, but I read posts from here occasionally. I am going to make my submission as concise as possible, but I'm not a great storyteller and this whole thing is a little more nuanced than my shitty ability to articulate it. I'm 27M and my girlfriend is 33F. Although our relationship started out very intense and unpredictable, we quickly developed strong feelings and have been together for 3 years. Despite being together that long, I just met my girlfriend's parents for the first time a few weeks ago. She is an only child and said she didn't want to introduce anyone she dated to her parents unless she knew this was the person she wanted to marry. Her parents also live abroad and due to COVID and her dad's health problems, they didn't visit her for a while. She usually went to visit them. It was a big step for her to tell me she wanted me to meet them, and I did my best to make a good impression. I was raised by my grandmother. When she passed, my older sister took over caring for me. My girlfriend has had a stable upbringing. Her parents are wealthy and she's led a privileged life. We don't have the same life experiences and it was never a problem until I met her parents. If anything, for some reason the differences between us added to our relationship in ways. Unfortunately, I got the impression her parents were scrutinizing every aspect of my life over the dinner we had on our first meeting, and this included my family. I stayed true to myself and maintained my confidence but left the interaction feeling like I bombed a test. My girlfriend reassured me they liked me. But her mood over the few days afterward suggested otherwise. I called her out on it and pressed her for an explanation. I learned she's been upset because of a fight she had with her mother following the dinner. Her mother thinks I'm just having fun with her daughter, that I will get bored and leave her and she's too old to be wasting time with me. Apparently, her mother got this impression entirely from the way I look, and this judgment about me trumps anything else I shared about myself. My girlfriend and I decided to have me spend more time with her family over the coming holidays, so I have been going over every day and involving myself in shopping trips etc. with my girlfriend and her mom, hoping that she would get to know me and overcome whatever skepticism she has. I even spent hours getting a crash course in a strategy board game her dad plays and started playing with him to continue learning it as a form of bonding. Despite feeling like I won her dad over, I felt like her mom was constantly evaluating my loyalty in subtle, unrealistic ways. Examples include overanalyzing how I interact with others in public, reading too much into the way I smile, and the way I show affection toward my girlfriend. According to my girlfriend's mom, the fact that I have a motorcycle makes me extra slutty. And that's how this escalated. My sister and I have an 18-year-old dog. It's been a tough few months for him. I think he's approaching the end. For that reason, usually one of us is always with him. He's on the smaller side, so he's easy to bring along anywhere. I've had to leave to give medicine to my dog at certain times of the day because he's on a schedule, and I guess my girlfriend's mom found even this to be suspicious. The other day I left my girlfriend and her family to go give my dog his medicine, and on my way there my phone alerted that an AirTag was traveling with me. When I reached my place, I searched all my pockets and stuff and eventually found it on the motorcycle itself. It was connected to my girlfriend's mom's number. I told my girlfriend, and my girlfriend said she put her mom's AirTag on my bike to prove to her mom that I was not lying about where I was going. I get that she was trying to defend me, but I feel angry at her. It's hard to articulate, but ever since I met my girlfriend's family, microaggressions by her mom are really getting to me, and it's hard to separate them from my girlfriend. Hoping I'm just overstimulated by all this and things will get better after Christmas is over. I'm not sure if I'm an for being cold toward my girlfriend about the AirTag though. But it's a frustration that I'm having trouble letting go of. Some of commenter, the most foundational part of a relationship is the trust between two people. The fact that she didn't tell you about it sounds like she also wanted to see what you were doing, because if she trusted you she should have defended you. Parents are and have been skeptical since the first cave person brought another back to their parents. It's up to her and you to convince them otherwise. You seem to have done a lot, so it may just come down to direct face-to-face conversations with the 3 or 4 of you to really hammer this home. Otherwise, who knows what else will be done next to test your loyalty. Reply, that's what I've been struggling with. The fact that she didn't let me in on her plan makes me wonder if she wanted to test me too. Even if that's not the case, the whole approach has pissed me off. Commenter, info, if one of you is always with the dog, why did you have to leave to give him his medication? Reply, so this was on my watch. He just had a nasogastric tube put in and it's been more comfortable for him to stay at home versus me taking him out with me in the cold. The distance between my place and my girlfriend's is very short. I'm 28 and my girlfriend is 33F. We've been together for a few years and have discussed getting married. Unfortunately, ever since I met her parents last year, their behavior, specifically her mom, has made it difficult for me to see a future anymore. Her mom mistrusts me and it's all based on superficial impressions and assumptions about who she thinks I am. I have tried to show her parents patience and I've been extremely respectful, giving them opportunities to get to know me and overcome their prejudices. Everything came to a head when I went to visit my home country. I have a place here and I came to see a friend get married. Her parents showed up unannounced and requested a ride from the airport. I immediately called my girlfriend despite the time difference because I was in shock. She claimed she had no idea about their plans. They claim it was all impromptu/cheap flight/last minute etc. I just don't buy it. Anyway, I picked them up and they're currently staying with me in my apartment. They've got no itinerary but want me to arrange them to see XYZ, and of course they need me as translator. Everything is apparently too foreign to them, they're lost without me. They refuse to go anywhere without me as an escort. My girlfriend is apologetic, but I just don't see her supporting me in dealing with her parents, especially her mom, who is the instigator. The dad has no backbone, is forced to follow her. I posted another issue a while back too. My girlfriend doesn't support me in setting boundaries, so as her partner I fall into a rock and a hard place type situation. I can't tell if I'm being cold and uninviting, or if these people are crazy and my girlfriend is so afraid of them she didn't even warn me about something like this. I feel like I can handle anything if she's on my side, but it doesn't feel like she is. Maybe I can't be with someone like that. Commenter, whoa, that's a lot to handle. It's okay to feel upset that your girlfriend didn't warn you. Talk to her honestly about how you feel and that you need her support with her parents. Don't be afraid to set boundaries with them, even if it's hard. If she can't back you up, you might need to rethink things. You deserve a partner who's on your team. Reply, that's exactly it. I need us to be a team. I keep trying to express to her this won't work if we're not a team. Top comment on post. Commenter, your GF put an AirTag on your motorbike last month to prove a point to her mother. I think it's time to either accept your fate or move on and enjoy some freedom. Update post, I just wanted to clarify some things. I only met my girlfriend's parents for the first time late November 2024. The reason I picked them up from the airport instead of abandoning them or telling them to go find a hotel etc. was out of respect for my girlfriend and the relationship I wanted to have with her and her parents. After the first meeting I had with her parents, in late November that I shared in my first post, I confronted my girlfriend. She apologized and eventually her mother did too. Basically, I thought we were past whatever suspicions and mistrust her mother had about me. Then this happened. In the last few days, since this began, I have realized some things about my relationship. My girlfriend has been trying to play both sides. She'll tell me one thing and her parents another thing. She's been hiding some deep trust issues about me and insecurities about our relationship. Mostly her fears about me being unfaithful. I want to be clear that these fears are not because of anything that I've done, it's just how she feels. She used her parents to convince me it wasn't her craziness. And I am pretty sure she told her mom how she felt and her mom was willing to be in on it. I broke up with my girlfriend and asked her parents to leave. The friend's wedding I went to hit different because of that. But it also made me realize how unhealthy and toxic my relationship was. I haven't disclosed a lot, but I think I was in an abusive relationship. I am still struggling to accept that, and there is some shame creeping up that I don't understand. Why is it there? Anyway. Thanks for all the messages. Sorry my writing skills aren't that great. I'm so drained from this situation, I feel like I need to sleep for a month. I don't even feel like writing about any of this, but I felt I owed you the conclusion. Some of best comments. Commenter, please do not fold and take that woman back, under any circumstance. It sucks, but it is better to be finished with it all. Best of luck reply, promise that's not happening. The breakup wasn't smooth, and she became extremely verbally aggressive. She said a lot of things that can never be unsaid. No matter what happens now, and in spite of all the threats she's been making, there's no hope for reconciliation. I know when I get back it's going to be crazy. I'm not looking forward to it. Editing this because I typoed commenter, did the parents leave peacefully, or did they attempt to somehow extend their stay? Reply, they were dumbfounded. I don't expect them to understand my feelings, so I said the least. I talked to her dad privately and let him know first to arrange a hotel accommodation. I put it on my ex-girlfriend to explain it to them. I told them they can contact her, but I am asking them to leave. Also worth mentioning because it makes me angry, I wasn't able to express it in my previous post due to being in shock and distracted by other issues, but her parents have been to my country several times. Her mom has gotten tons of small procedures and treatments in my country, so I'm not sure why all of a sudden they needed me as an escort. It seemed like she was trying to say she only comes to my country for her treatments but doesn't give a shit about anything else, so that's why she's unfamiliar. These people live in another world. I always feel like I'm going a little bit insane having any form of conversation with them. Commenter, sounds like that trip was her parents checking up on him for her because of her insecurities. Glad he bailed on that shit. Reply, it was definitely to investigate me. I don't think I'll ever know what my ex-girlfriend and her mom were suspicious about. Did they think I'm secretly married or living some kind of a second life? I wouldn't be surprised if they tried to look into my employment history etc. I feel so stupid for the kindness I extended to them. I tried to be understanding of every transgression and let my girlfriend gaslight me into thinking I was just misunderstanding things because I didn't have parents growing up. Stories number 7. My 38M fiancé, 31F, is cheating with a director at her work. The other night while hanging out, I 38M caught my fiancé 31F sending inappropriate texts to her coworker and she doesn't know that I know. We've been together for 4 years now and I just proposed a month ago. The text messages contain things like, I can't stop thinking about you, and, you nasty bitch, sexually explicits. I tried asking her about him, not letting her know that I saw what they were saying to each other, but she denied that they have an inappropriate relationship. I have since found hard proof that they are indeed having explicit romantic conversations. To make matters worse, this guy is a director at her work. He is not her direct rep or director, but still, a director. He has even recommended her for another position that would allow them to spend more time together. I'm trying to decide if I should report this to their HR. Not only is this director married, we just got engaged a month ago, and this seems like a conflict of interest in her work situation. Any advice navigating this situation would be greatly appreciated. Any suggestions? Update, thank you all for the responses. After reading some of these, I realized that I hadn't taken time to actually process my feelings through all of this and how hurt and broken I feel right now. This isn't the first instance of cheating that she has done, but previously it was just drunken flirtatious texts. To the best of my knowledge, this hasn't progressed beyond minimal physical contact, hugging maybe kissing, and the texting, but it is still beyond what I can handle. I will give more updates once I take the next steps. Stories number 8. So I hooked up with a guy I met on Discord and it was weird AF. Okay, so I've been gaming for years, right? Got my little Discord friend group, we chill, play late at night, and all that. There's this one guy I've been talking to for months, funny, kinda nerdy but in a hot way, and we've been flirting on and off. Nothing serious, just some late night convos and inside jokes. Anyway, one night we were talking and he was like, you should come visit me, and it WTF got into me but I said yes. Fast forward a week, I'm on a damn train heading to his city like some rom-com shit. I get to his place, and it's not what I expected. First of all, he looks kinda different than his pics. Not like catfish level bad, but definitely not what I thought I was signing up for. But whatever, I'm here, might as well make the best of it, right? So we start watching a movie, sitting on his bed, and next thing I know, his hand is on my thigh. I'm thinking, okay, maybe this could be fun. But y'all, it was so awkward. Like, I swear he kept whispering game references while we were making out. Critical hit, bro, what? I did my best to power through it, but halfway through I was just like, nah. Made up some excuse about being tired, rolled over, and prayed for the night to end. Woke up, got the first train back home, and now he keeps messaging me like, when you coming back, like dude. Never. Boo. Ever met someone IRL from online and instantly regretted it? Stories number 9. Sick on my couch, BF can't be bothered to bring me soup. I, 30F, have a cold and I'm on the couch under my heated blanket. I've lost 5 pounds in the last 2 days and I'm just trying to stay hydrated. All I've been craving this weekend is hot soup. I'm too sick to leave my home, so I texted my BF, 25M, this evening. I know he's out with a friend, but he said he would come over later and take care of me. He volunteered. I didn't even ask, around 6, so I asked if he could please stop by the grocery store to pick up soup, to which he said yes. I thanked him and said I would gladly pay him for the soup. 6 turned into 7, then 8. My BF just texted me again to say he'd be bringing soup, but it'd be closer to 11 or so. I told him to just enjoy his night out, and that we can get together another night. I think I'm done. I can't be with someone whose priority is having a beer with a friend over taking care of a sick partner. For context, my BF works 5 to 10 hours per week and is a part-time student. He goes out drinking with friends 3 to 5 times per week, so it's not like he never gets to do this or he's overwhelmed with responsibility. Update: thank you for all the kindness, support, and wisdom so many of you have shared. As a quick update, I ended up ordering soup last night, and it was amazing. This morning I also invited my boyfriend out for coffee next week so I can break up with him. We've had some challenges as it is, but this is truly the last straw. To those who are saying you're not dying, you can order your own soup, those are true statements, but this is not about a cold or soup. My boyfriend has a history of blowing off promises and commitments he's made, both to me and others, so he can prioritize drinking with his friends. That's the crux of the issue here. Stories number 10 to full unknowingly applying to college as a fictional race. So little backstory, to my knowledge I'm just about an 8th Native American. My parents didn't raise me spiritual or anything, but I knew they did have a little shrine they liked to keep some things and whatever, it was just part of the house. I had friends ask me about and it was nothing crazy. They are also really fond of leathers and animal skins, which cringe, but anyway, when I got old enough I asked my parents what tribe we were and I was told the Yuan-Ti. Now I didn't know anything of it, but I did tell my friends in elementary school and whatever and bragged I was close to nature, as you do. So recently I applied to colleges, and since you only have to be 1/16th native I thought I had this in the bag. Confirmed with my parents and sent in my applications as 1/8 Yuan-Ti tribe. I found out all these years that is a fictional race of snake people from Dungeons and Dragons. TLDR, since I was a kid my parents told me I was native Yuan-Ti, but actually they were just nerds and I told everyone I know that I was a fictional snake person. Editor's note: the Yuan-Ti D&D for those interested. Top comments. Commenter 1: as soon as I read Yuan-Ti I busted up laughing. Commenter 2: the most funny thing is that in D&D lore Yuan-Ti are actively infiltrating the human society by sending their most humanoid-like members to live in human towns. So, a little prank or a worldwide scheme? Smiley face. Commenter 3: I don't want to blame you because it's not really your fault, but you never tried to research the tribe your family belonged to? Like just a quick Google search. Haha. Reply: yeah, I know. This is why I'm kicking myself in the ass. But like my friend made me feel better by telling me how she Hispanic and never second guessed it or did much digging into it. Commenter 4: ha ha ha, oh my god, this cannot be real. Reply: it happened and it makes me want to vomit, lol. I contacted the colleges I made the mistake for and tried my best to explain. I considered lying about what happened, but whatever. Commenter 5: your parents are there like, we can't tell him we play D&D, that's too embarrassing. Let's tell him we're of a religious tribe of snake people. Yep, that should work. Reply: no, I think they've blurred the fantasy and reality line here. I wish it was that simple, lol. Commenter 6: I actually wonder if your parents meant to say Yuan-Ti, which is an actual, virtually extinct tribe from the Dakota Territory. There is virtually no information about the tribe available sans a single book at the public library in Bismarck, Mandan, which is written in Yuan-Ti. The tribe is thought to have peaked at 200 members. Source: 1/16 Yuan-Ti. Update: so, I've been accepted to 2 schools even with my screw up, but turns out that old mess is the least of my problems right now. After a conversation with my parents, they wouldn't drop the yuan thing. They apologized for telling me but not for lying, for telling me this way. After some argument I told them I was gonna live on campus in a dorm and they said that I couldn't, and they wouldn't financially support me if I tried. Their reason was, I would be too far from the shrine for too long. I took apart their shrine since nobody was home. I hope that wasn't too mean. Also, some of you wondered my actual heritage. It turns out my great-grandmother was actually native, but I won't be cashing in on that. And as for what tribe, I don't know. She was kicked out or something and didn't talk about it before she died. TLDR, college still accepted me. My parents insist I am native Yuan T and won't help me pay for college if I live on campus for superstitious reasons. Confirmed that I am 1 out of 8 native from my great-grandmother but of mystery tribe. Stories number 11 AIO. Husband came back from a bachelor trip and wants to stay in bed all day. My husband just got back from a 4-day bachelor trip with his friends. It was something he really needed after a stressful last quarter at his job, and I fully supported him going to relax and recharge. While he was gone, I stayed home with our twin boys, who both ended up coming down with the flu. I worked from home while caring for them, managed their needs, dealt with a hot water heater issue that came up, and kept the house running. I never once complained to my husband or vented because I didn't want to make him feel bad or ruin his time away. When he got home, I was really looking forward to having some help and maybe getting a bit of a break myself. Instead, one of the first things he said was, "I can't wait to spend Saturday in bed, I'm just exhausted." I honestly couldn't believe it. The house is a mess, there are sheets to wash, the boys still need care, and I could also use a breather after the week I had. When I asked him how he planned to stay in bed all day when there were so many things that needed doing, he looked surprised and said, "Well, you were home all week with the boys." At that point, I completely lost it internally. I feel like I bent over backward to support him taking this trip, even while juggling sick kids and household issues, and now it seems like he doesn't even recognize the toll that week took on me. So, am I overreacting? Or do I have a right to feel upset about his attitude? Stories number 12. Ex-wife opened 2 credit cards in my name in the amount of $6,000. She's threatening to withhold my visitation rights for our son if I turn her in. This is a sad situation, but after my divorce, I ended up moving about 30 miles away where I bought a house and got a job transfer. The divorce was finalized about 4 years ago. She got primary custody as she lives in the school district, though I get most weekends and holidays. We've been fairly cordial about it and it's been working for a while. Eventually, I'd like to get to a 50-50 as she'll be moving to a different school district once he hits high school shortly and I just move into that district. My problem is that my ex has opened up a couple of credit cards in my name. I had no idea this was happening until I received a letter from a collection agency. It was pretty obvious she was the one who opened the accounts as the address on the accounts are hers and it looks like the statements are from mainly where she shops. When I dropped our son off on Monday, I told her I found the accounts and I'd have to go to the police unless she paid them off completely right away. She denied it at first, then said if I went to the police, she'd disallow visitation for safety reasons. Unfortunately, she'd be able to do this, and has done so in the past, requiring me to go back to court with my lawyer to force her to follow the parenting agreement. That's how I gained all holidays shortly after the divorce, basically as a punishment for failing to comply with the parenting order, but still allowing her to be the custodial parent. I don't want my son to have to go through this, but I am certainly not taking the hit to my credit for what she's doing. I'm probably going to make the report, but is there anything else I'd be missing her? Update: there's some good and some bad unfortunately. Since this started several months ago, she has been horrible. I went to the police regarding the credit card accounts, getting the report was painless and they said it happens a lot. Both of the credit cards have dropped off my credit report. My credit is back to normal and I've set up a credit monitor and to make sure it doesn't happen again. It doesn't look like she's going to be prosecuted for opening the cards in my name. In November I got a form letter saying they wouldn't be prosecuting my case. I asked a criminal defense lawyer I know about it and he said the county maybe goes forward with 10% of criminal cases where people get arrested, it's nearly zero where there is no probable cause for an arrest. He said his job is basically just working out deals for clearly guilty people. He also said to let it go at this point, so I've come to terms with the fact that she's not going to give criminal charges and probably not even a lawsuit. She also did exactly what she said she would do and stopped letting me see our son. I've documented every single instance, about 30 total, since September that she's failed to follow our court-ordered custody agreement. I finally got her served at work, That's another thing I don't like about family courts, and she claimed I was abusive and manipulative. I had the police report for the credit cards and basically said the visitation violations started the week after I made the report. The judge basically gave her a final chance to follow the order before he would grant an alteration and she'd possibly face criminal charges. The first child exchange after the hearing a couple weeks ago, she said she needs more child support and alimony, asking for an extra $1,500 per month. I told her absolutely not. Last week I went to pick him up, she never showed up and I got a documentation number from the police. Next day, new account detected, email. I got the account cancelled before the card was even sent to her address. Froze my credit, made another report, waiting for the "will not prosecute" letter. She's failed to show up with him ever since. Got her served at work and our new hearing is in a week and a half. I know eventually things are going to work out, but she's really testing my nerves. Stories number 13. My 32F husband, 35M, wants me to give him 50% of my earnings when I sell my inherited childhood home. I don't want to. My husband of 6 years is active duty military. We plan on moving this summer to a new duty station. Right before we got married, my mother passed away, while he was deployed, and I inherited my childhood home. My husband and I still live there until this day. 2 weeks ago I told him that I'm highly considering selling the house when we move due to it still needing a lot of work and I don't really want to be a landlord. I broke this news to him while I invited him to sit in on a therapy session. This was also encouraged my therapist. I immediately got a personal therapist once my husband told me we were moving. My therapist is helping me process the grief of losing my mother, the trauma of my aunt taking a portion of inheritance, how to mentally preparing for the move, and help me understand what I need to do with house as I do have an emotional attachment to the house. Backstory: before my husband moved in, I was taking care of the mortgage and other bills by myself. That I used the money from my job, $28,000 annual salary, and would tap into the money left by my mother if I needed extra money to cover the bills. After my husband and I got married, he volunteered to take over the bills for the house since he was entitled to BAH, military housing allowance. So he's been paying the bills pertaining to the house and our phone bill. I've also been doing my part by paying for groceries, cleaning, supporting him as a wife, contributing financially to minor house renovations, like flooring, and paying for our vacations. Well, fast forward 4 years later, I'm a year into a job with the federal government making great salary and with the possibility of promotion. As of Monday, I found out that I could lose my job due to President Trump's executive order to terminate remote work. So you better believe I'm stressed and worried, but also trying my best to remain optimistic. I spent the last 3 days expressing my concerns and fears to my husband as I could lose my source of income. My husband didn't really empathize with me, but gave me the logical response of start applying for other jobs, and told me stories of how he survived when he was laid off. This basically escalated to an argument about me expressing my needs with extra emphasis that I need emotional support and not unsolicited solutions. His rebuttal was basically a series of attacks on my upbringing, calling me a sheltered princess, implying that I wouldn't survive or thrive without him. He believes that I never had to pay bills when I lived with my sick mom around the time we started dating. I was helping my mom by taking her to doctor appointments and contributed by paying supporting bills like utilities, cable, and groceries. The next day he ended up apologizing, saying that he needs to learn empathy and check his pride and ego when speaking with me. I took this apology with a grain of salt as I need to see him prove it. Argument 2, the same day he apologized, I called him later that night as I was tired driving back home from having dinner with my friends. I just needed conversation to keep me awake. The conversation started nice. We were talking about stuff that we enjoy, hobby-wise. About an hour into the conversation he randomly says, "Are you going to go 50/50ths?" I was super confused at first and asked him to speak plainly about what he's asking. He said, "When you sell the house, are you willing to go 50/50ths?" I told him that I was uncomfortable having this conversation right now as it's late and I'm extremely tired. He kept pressing and wanted an answer. I let him know that this conversation was giving me PTSD from my aunt stealing a portion of my inheritance when my mom passed. I asked if this is something we could discuss another time to allow time for me to process my thoughts. He basically said that I was avoiding important conversations and now he doesn't trust me with important financial decisions. He then brought up all the ways that he contributed financially to attempt prove his point that he's entitled to 50% based on what he's done and also based on him being my husband. I told him that I didn't forget about his contributions to the household as he also helped by paying to replace the roof and helped pay a portion to fix a recent plumbing issue. However, his approach to this question is aggressive and dare I say disrespectful. To make this long story kinda short, he is now demanding that I call him at 8 p.m. today to tell him how much, percentage-wise, he is entitled to, or else. I don't know what he means by, or else. The sad part about this was before he started pressing me, I was going to buy him his dream truck to express my gratitude after we moved. Now would that add up to 50/50ths? No. But I wasn't going to leave my husband out to dry with nothing to show for it. At this point, I'm considering no longer selling the house and considering pausing our relationship. I would like another perspective. Stories number 14 Aita for refusing to go to my sister's wedding because she publicly humiliated my son. Update 2. Hi, everyone. It's been a couple of months since I made my update post, so I figured I should update once more, if anyone is still interested. My sister Jane got married on December 4th, and it has been such a roller coaster. I did not go to the wedding, nor did I go to any after party or gathering they had. I'm not at all interested in any of their plans. From what I heard, red wine was spilled on her dress, which in turn ruined the photos. Karma's ABTCH. Anyways. I ended up taking Liam to the mall, and just spent the entire day with him. I bought him some new Lego sets, clothes, and basically everything he wanted. My boy deserves to be spoiled. Before anyone asks, yes, he still has his bladder issues. However, yes, we managed to get him used to wearing pull-ups and other things to manage his accidents. A lot of people sent me messages regarding certain things to use, and honestly it really helped a lot. I checked a few of them before I logged out of this account. It wasn't easy getting him used to the change, but Liam understood that it was for the best and learned to use them. He hasn't really complained about anything so far. Now the big question is, what's going on with my sister? Like I said, she got married and all, blah, blah, blah. According to her maid of honor, she was a real bridezilla. So glad I wasn't there. I feel bad for her fiancé, really nice guy. I am still no contact with her or anyone in my family that supported her. My mother has been my rock. It hasn't been that hard to adjust actually. My father has been cut off as well. My father and I never got along, so it isn't a loss for me. I fully believe that he is the reason my sister acts the way she does. My sister has tried to reach out to me a couple of times. Most of them were just her berating me for not going to the wedding, and the others were half-assed apologies. I could honestly care less about what she says. I read Liam some of the comments and guys, you made him the happiest little boy on earth. His birthday was actually 4 days ago, January 22nd. He is now 8 years old. We had a nice Lego-themed party for him. He loves Legos. My mom and a few cousins were invited, along with his school friends. He had an accident during the party, but finally, no one was there to berate him for something he can't control. TLDR, Liam is great, he says hi and thank you for everything. I'm also saying thank you for anything. If anything in the future happens, I'll be sure to update you guys, but for now, this seems to be it. Love you all, and thank you for the support. Stories number 15 Aita for calling out my partner taking credit for paying a restaurant bill when he paid on our joint account. So we, me F53, and my partner, M57, took our collective kids out for dinner tonight. My partner paid the bill and as usual paid on our joint account. He sometimes picks the bill up himself, but more often it's the joint account that gets used. On the way home his daughter and her boyfriend made a point of thanking him directly for the meal and he acknowledged saying something along the lines of, "You're welcome" or "no problem." I didn't say anything in front of the kids, but when home I checked he'd used the joint account, and when he confirmed he had I asked why he'd not corrected the kids that it wasn't just him that had paid. He went off at me for ruining a good night and that I was being picky about paying the bill, completely missing my point. My point wasn't about money, it was about him taking the credit and not correcting the kids. I just see that as a common courtesy. He sees me as being unreasonable and bringing up something best left unsaid. So Aita here. Should I have just let it go? Stories number 16 Husband is blaming friend for decline in marriage. My husband and I have been together 14 years, married for 8. I am a stay-at-home mom. We have 2 children together, 4 and 3. While I was pregnant with our first daughter I found out he was having an affair with someone 10 years my junior. We worked it out and we ended up pregnant with our second. I found out at the beginning of the second pregnancy I had the first STD of my life and I had been entirely faithful. He attributed this to the previous affair, over a year prior, and has yet to admit to a second affair and has no idea how it happened. About a year ago, after moving to a new state, I found a friend and became close with her. We started doing mom's nights out about once a month or so. At first my husband encouraged this and was happy I found a friend. As time went on I found myself wanting to spend less quality time with him in the evenings. I would go and watch a movie and he would play video games. I did not do this at my friend's suggestion but simply found myself growing apart from my husband. I have found it difficult to fully recover from the infidelity and found comfort in a friend I could talk to about my feelings and try to understand myself. It now has come to my husband blaming my friend for the decline in our quality time/marriage. He has accused me of having an affair with my friend and has now given me an ultimatum. Him and our marriage or her. How do I avoid giving up my friendship? She was my listening ear and a place of peace for me while I tried to navigate my feelings towards my husband and marriage. I don't want to lose her while I figure out if I want to continue my marriage. Stories number 17. Aita for refusing to thank my sil cause she had to babysit her own kids. My 22F brother, 35M, surprised me 6 months ago by planning a trip to Scotland for my birthday. He knew I've never traveled before and wanted to take me to my dream country. Due to tight finances it was just the two of us, which I was okay with since at the time him and I were close. For context, my brother is married and has 2 kids under 6, his wife, 34F, had said she was happy for me and didn't mind holding down the fort for a week while we're on the trip. Her and I have never been close and quite frankly just tolerate each other for the sake of keeping the peace. She's never been a fan of how close my siblings are with each other. It all comes down to growing up in different family dynamics. Anyway, the trip was amazing and I loved every second of it. I was on such a high when we came back that I thanked my brother so many times for doing this for me until he told me to shut up. LOL. I thought everything was good and we resumed our lives normally. Imagine my surprise when I get a text 3 days after coming back from my sil telling me off and calling me rude and ungrateful cause I didn't send her a text thanking her for babysitting on her own and having to do everything around her house for a whole week while I had fun with her husband. Yup, that's exactly how she worded it. I was flabbergasted. This is the same woman who smiled and told me to have fun on my trip and now she's berating me for not thanking her for doing me a favor by taking care of her kids for a week. Am I crazy or is that totally irrational and just weird? I told her I'm not sure taking care of your own children is babysitting or doing someone else a favor, and she blew up at me calling me a terrible ungrateful brat and that I never show appreciation for anything. I was so confused by all of this and called my brother, but he doubled down and told me the trip wouldn't have been possible had she not volunteered to take care of their kids so we can have fun and that I should be thanking her for doing it for me. I was and still am confused on why I need to thank a mother for taking care of her own kids. Anyway, to keep the peace I told her thanks for doing it, but she decided I wasn't being sincere and convinced my brother to go low contact with me. My siblings and my mom were confused by all of this but keep telling me to just bite my tongue and not stir the pot any further, but I'm just hurt and confused. My relationship with my brother has been strained since and it's taking a toll on me. I just need outside opinions cause I'm genuinely confused on whether or not I'm the asshole in this whole mess. This is my first time posting and English is not my first language, so excuse any errors. Edit. I can't reply to everyone, so let me clear up a few things I feel I should have included. They do not share finances. She has never spent any money on anything related to me also. Last year she took a trip with her siblings abroad as well, and no, I don't know if her siblings thanked my brother for watching his kids. Finances were tight as in my brother was paying out of his own pocket and wouldn't have been able to take anyone else with us, plus this trip was a birthday gift not a family trip, so no one expected to join. I did thank them both when I was first told about the trip and I asked my brother if he was sure it was okay for us to go and he assured me we were set and I only needed to have fun. I later learned that she didn't contribute anything to the trip and said she wouldn't have wanted to take a trip with me anyway. Hope this clears some things up. Relevant comments. Commenter 1, ESH, her more than you. The text mid-trip coming for you seems unhinged and aggressively rude. Is there more there? But either way, it was rude. She was making sacrifices at home with her husband gone. They're a 2-parent household, so yes, she was doing more work at home because he was gone. Additionally, I am going to do the logical common sense thing and assume they share finances, so she paid for this trip too. You should have probably thanked her before you left, but it doesn't justify her message. Reply. As far as I know, they have separate finances and she didn't contribute anything to the trip. In the past, whenever my brother has given me anything as a gift, she always made it clear that it came out of my brother's pocket and not hers. Also, I knew nothing about what the arrangements they made together were. All I was told is he planned the trip and that my eldest brother gave him extra cash in case I wanted to buy any souvenirs from there. The text I sent wasn't mid-trip, it was after we got back home and she texted me berating me for not thanking her and I was just confused and questioned how she did me a favor when those are her and my brother's kids, and I assumed they'd worked it out prior to the trip, so I'm not sure I understand how it was a favor for me. I'd understand if they were my kids that I left with her to babysit, but maybe I'm wrong. Commenter 2, info, when was the last time she went on a trip with your brother, just the two of them? Also, does he usually do planning/logistics for their family trips? Are there family trips? These aren't asked to make you feel guilty, but might provide good context for your SIL's, admittedly unhinged, reaction. Reply, They take a family trip once a year, and last year Sil went on a trip with her siblings and my brother stayed home with the kids. They keep their finances separate and only contribute equally when they travel together as a family. And yes, my brother usually plans everything. He even planned her trip with her siblings. Commenter 3, NTA, that's between you and your husband, would have been my only reply. Commenter 4, NTA, if anything he should be the one thanking her for taking care of their kids. You got invited to go and it was a gift to you. I've never been thanked for watching my kids, lol, which I agree and understand it's a lot of work, but she also agreed to do it so you guys could go. I don't think you're the asshole here. Commenter 5, I wouldn't have thought to thank her for watching her own kids, but I would have got her a nice gift while on the trip and thanked her for being so kind to let my brother take me on this trip. I think you missed an excellent chance to be gracious. Update. Thank you to everyone for the insight on my previous post. The post kinda blew up in a way I wasn't expecting and the responses were overwhelming, but I now understand that I did not react correctly to her texts. This is a long update since a lot has happened. To clear up a few things before I continue with the update, a lot of you are fixated on the fact that I said finances are tight. I didn't mean their overall finances. They have separate finances, and from my understanding, they only share finances when it comes to their household and kids. Anything else they pay from their own pockets and don't interfere in what they spend their money on as long as the kids are good and household is running smoothly. So since my brother was paying for this trip on his own, he couldn't take many people with him as that would put a bigger financial burden on his personal savings. They're doing fine financially. They take family trips once a year. I did thank them both when I was initially told about the trip. My Sil later made a snide comment about how this was all my brother and she didn't contribute to the trip at all. Last year Sil and her siblings went on their own trip while my brother took care of everything and he was fine with it. My family dynamic is apparently confusing you guys, but we're 5 siblings that are very close and hang out regularly and have a close bond with our mom, especially since our dad passed away. We are from an Asian country and the culture here and the bonds between families are different from the West. To those who said maybe she's salty I'm getting a trip when I've never helped them out, I babysat my Sil's babies for 5 days a week for months each time her maternity leave ended. And each time they stopped needing me to help out only my brother thanks me and that's fine with me. Sil has never thanked me or my siblings for anything we do for them. She says the fact that we're so eager and willing to drop everything to take care of each other is weird and unhealthy. I did thank her once I realized I should just keep the peace and tell her what she wanted to hear. Still, she didn't accept my thank you after I made the babysitting your own kids comment. I understand I was an for saying that now since a lot of you have pointed out that it was rude and that I'm not a mother and don't get it, but to be fair her texts were full of insults. She kept doubling down on the fact that she was stuck babysitting because of me. Many of you asked why I wasn't offered the ticket and went on my own. In our culture women, especially young ones, don't travel on their own without either a family member or their husbands. It's not about control but more out of protection for us, so going on my own wouldn't have been an option. On to the update, strap in, this is a long one. So I talked with my mum to better understand the situation, since many of you said I'm not a mother and don't get it, and she said my Sil worded it wrong but maybe she just wanted gratitude for helping my brother out cause being a parent isn't easy. I understand that I reacted to her messages wrong when I could have just said a simple thank you, but neither I or my mum understand why she was so aggressive towards me in her texts. The aggression is what made me become so defensive. I found out from my siblings and my mum that my brother only paid for the tickets and the accommodations, and that my eldest brother is the one that provided the pocket money for food and buying stuff on the trip, and that my siblings chipped in but didn't want the credit since my brother wanted this trip to be like a thank you for helping them out so much with their kids over the years and that he had cleared it with his wife and she had given him the go-ahead. She also told me that he had asked Sil if she wanted to come with us on the trip and leave their kids with my mum, who was fine with that but she declined as she and I aren't close and it would have been weird for the both of us. My mum told me that my brother actually asked her to check in every day with Sil to make sure all was well and to see if she needed anything. She also said my brother asked Sil's sisters to check on her as well. It turns out Sil had taken the week off of work, I didn't know that, and for 4 out of the 7 days we were in Scotland she dropped her kids off at my mum's, and the other 3 days when my mum called Sil said she had her sisters with her and didn't need any help. So what the hell was she so mad about? It's clear to me that she wasn't abandoned by my brother as some of you suggested. My siblings initially wanted to just keep the peace but after I showed them my Sil's texts they were surprised and appalled by her words. They thought this whole thing was a simple misunderstanding and now understand that it had become bigger and that my brother and I aren't talking. My sister decided to investigate and called my brother to understand what happened and it turns out my Sil told him that my mum and siblings didn't check in on her at all, which is a lie. My sister even dropped off food for them twice, and that the kids were upset their dad left them and were throwing tantrums all the time. Also probably not true, and that this wasn't what they had agreed on when he told her about the trip months ago. He was too busy trying to calm my sil down to confirm with the family whether or not it was true. My sister then asked him if he'd seen the texts his wife had sent me and he said he hadn't, but that Sil told him she just asked me for a simple thank you for all her hard work and that I blew up at her and told her she didn't deserve anything since she didn't pay for the trip and that she was entitled. He said he was hesitant about believing that since he knows I'd never outright disrespect someone like that even if I don't get along with them, but she insisted that it happened and that she had no reason to lie and as her husband she needed his support not his questioning, and that's why he sent me the text saying I needed to thank her. My sister then let my brother know about everything that happened and told him, more like demanded, that they apologize to me, which I didn't think was necessary. I just wanted my brother to talk to me again, and he sounded upset and told her he'll figure this out after talking to his wife. Spoiler alert, it didn't go well. Sil and my brother had a massive fight and he demanded to know why she lied and caused so much drama, and she broke down and told him that he was too close to me and my siblings and that she hated how the whole family babied me, I'm the youngest, and that his siblings' relationship with each other made her uncomfortable and she just wanted him to put a little distance between himself and us because her family isn't as close to each other and kept telling her our close dynamic is weird and toxic. He told her her behavior is unacceptable and that she caused a rift between not only him and I but also him and the rest of his siblings as well because now they're mad at him. My brother did call me and he apologized for doubling down on what his wife said. He said it was already tense in their house and he was just trying to keep the peace and be supportive, but he shouldn't have treated me this way when deep down he knew I wasn't at fault. He also let me know that for the time being Sil will go NC with my siblings and I while they go to marriage counseling and Sil goes to therapy cause her behavior wasn't normal. He sounded exhausted and defeated and I just told him we're all here for him if he needs us. He made it clear that the NC is only for my Sil and assured me he won't limit his contact with me and apologized for doing so without even talking to me first. I asked him if he'd like me to reach out to her and apologize for what I said and give her a sincere thank you, but he said no, that it was never about the gratitude to begin with and that it's apparently a bigger issue between them that they need to figure out on their own, that we shouldn't contact Sil unless she reaches out first as she doesn't want to have any contact with us. He also apologized for her language with me on the texts but I told him not to worry about it. Safe to say Sil's relationship with us is never going to be the same again after this, and to be honest I wasn't the biggest fan of hers but I was civil and polite to her in the past cause my brother loves her and we've never had any issues prior to this. I do feel really guilty that all this happened because of the trip planned for me but my siblings keep telling me it's not my fault. My mum says I should have just thanked my Sil and kept the peace instead of having this all blow up so much, but my siblings told her that even if I had apologized it wouldn't have mattered as my Sil would have found something else to cause a problem. But they also told me what a lot of you had mentioned in the comments, that saying thank you was the polite thing to do, and that taking care of kids full-time is not the same as babysitting them for a few hours and it would have been good to tell her she's appreciated. But they understand that I don't have the understanding of what it means to be a parent and that having someone basically verbally attack me wouldn't have made me reciprocate with kindness. And I get it, I was ignorant about it and I acknowledge that. There are a lot more details but that's the gist of it. Brother and Sil's marriage is strained RN and so is his relationship with us, but I hope that everything works out okay. I really love my brother and hate seeing him so defeated. Part of me wishes we never went on that trip because all this drama is draining. To clarify something, the only reason I was questioning the whole "I babysat my kids as a favor to you" is because I always see people criticizing fathers who say that and calling them out because kids are the parents' responsibility and not a chore or a favor for anyone. I thought this applied to both mothers and fathers, but perhaps I was mistaken because my only point of reference on this topic is what I see on the internet as I'm not a mom, and since a lot of you have said I'm the AH and that she deserved a thank you and a gift. I messed up the thank you part, but I did buy her a magnet for their fridge since she likes to collect them. I went a little crazy and brought back little souvenirs for myself and everyone else as well, and it would have been weird and rude to give her kids gifts and not her, so I got every single family member a small Scottish themed present. I was excited about being in Scotland lol. Thank you all for your insights and advice. I really appreciate it whether you thought I was or wasn't the AH, all your opinions put things into perspective for me. Some comments were outright nasty though and I didn't think name calling was productive or necessary, but oh well, that's the internet. Also, if you saw the OG post on some podcast sub, it's because my friend saw my post and told me to post it there cause she's a fan of them and thinks the podcasters would be entertained by it. I wasn't seeking out validation from a different sub, she was just excited by the idea that her favorite podcast might read out a post about someone she knows. She's weird but I love her so I did it, that's all. Top comments. Commenter 1, it's not babysitting if it's your own kids. You weren't wrong. I understand there's a lot more going on, but she used you as her scapegoat and you stood up to her, that's why she doubled down and got even nastier. Good for you, BTW. Commenter 2, so she's just bitter and jealous that you guys all have such a great relationship, and she let her family's trash talk convince her to act like a hag. Unless she gets some therapy and fixes her own issues, there's nothing else for you all to do. I suggest you just keep having a close relationship between all the siblings, including your poor brother who's stuck with a woman so jealous of his family that she wanted to alienate him. Make sure she doesn't succeed. Commenter 3, I hate that so many people told you were in the wrong for what you said. You weren't in the wrong, you were absolutely correct. Maybe you would have been a little more tactful if she wasn't being so awful, but that's on her, not you. You are right that neither parent babysits their own kids. That's not how it works, and I hate that your mom is still insisting you were wrong and that you are to blame. You aren't. Your mom is wrong for still claiming that when you so clearly are not the problem here. Commenter 4, so, what did Sil do, when she was child-free for 4 days? Sil is so wrong in everything here. I wouldn't be surprised if your brother ends up divorcing her. Commenter 5, you're still NTA, but your Sil is a definite shit-stirring asshole. I'm sorry her childhood and family life sucked so badly that seeing a healthy family relationship made her uncomfortable. She lied to everybody to cause drama and drive a wedge between your brother and your family because SHE was an insecure bitch and would rather your brother be isolated and miserable than have a loving family and SHE be miserable. I hope he divorces her. Stories number 18 AITJ for telling a Karen that I will check my bag if she checks hers. IF, 26, was heading home for the holidays and this was my first time encountering a Karen, but it started with me getting ready to board my flight with a well-known airline in the US. The flight attendants at the time announced that they would check bags for free. I did have my purse along with a bag that had all my electronics for the flight that would keep me from getting on board. But the main thing is, I had a suitcase that was meant to be a carry-on full of clothes as I did not want to wait at the carousel to pick anything up. The only thing that had to go was the suitcase in the overhead bin, everything else could fit under my seat. But before I was starting to board my flight, a person that I would call Karen came up to me and demanded that I check my bag as it was free. I told her politely that I would not be checking my bag. That is when she into a demanding tone saying that I must check my bag and that I should respect my elders. That is when I told her that if she cares so much she should check her bag and mind her own business. Am I the jerk? Stories number 19 to full by cleaning my windowsill. Braless. For context, I'm Irish and we've recently had big historic storm. There wasn't too much damage done to my home, mainly the garden and a few roof tiles off, but on the grand scale, not bad. However, I did leave a kitchen window open on a latch. The window didn't break but it did leave a mess inside my kitchen around my window inside, the sink and the blind. My ma and da's house had the power cut, so obviously I'd invited them to stay. They said they'd be at my house in around 2 hours. My ma, God bless her wee soul, is a bit of a clean freak. So naturally, my ADHD self shot straight into hyperfocus. The ADHDers will understand this. Because of the storm, the contents of the wood chip and mud from the garden were inside my kitchen by the windowsill, all over my blinds and sink. So I chose to get right into washing inside the kitchen cupboards and the ice cube trays inside the freezer in true ADHD style. Scrub the floor, Armageddon style, where bacteria wouldn't survive. The anxiety really started to kick in, so I took some oil that I'm prescribed. 2 milliliters, 30 milligrams THC. Usually takes an hour or so to kick in. But I'd forgotten to eat, but nah, feck it. So anyway, I take a break and doom scroll and notice the time. Jesus Mary and the wee donkey, half an hour before my parents get here. Better finish cleaning. So I get to the windowsill, so muddy, and some plants that sat on the ledge had been blown over. These plants were all cactus. Particularly a bunny ear cactus plant that I'm particularly fond of. So I moved them off the windowsill on the draining part of the sink and sorted the soil, just as the oil started to hit me. Now this is key, I was in old clothes, hair up, braless. The ladies will know, this is classic deep clean attire. I start wiping the ledge, high as a fucking kite. Now this might sound like a humble brag, but I'm rather well endowed on the knocker's front. The chariots were swinging slow, and my sweet bunny ear cactus was being smothered, particularly by my right tit as I was leaning over them to clean the windowsill. The pain didn't even kick in right away. I'd cleaned the windowsill, blind, and even sprayed air freshener. It wasn't till I went to get changed and took my t-shirt off that I felt the burn of 1,000 fucking suns. When I took my top off, I'm not joking when I say it looked like the cast of Honey I Shrunk the Kids had went to war with my tits using tiny spears. It looked like tiny blonde hairs covered my right tit. It looked like my right tit was going through menopause. It was hot, red, and had tiny hairs all over. The pain really started to kick in. I turned my bathroom upside down looking for tweezers. I found them just as I heard someone walk in my door. My parents had arrived. My face was purple, tears in my eyes. My ma knew something was wrong. My dad was clueless, his first words upon seeing me and the damage from the storm was, "Had more wind up my arse." Charming. I had to fess up to my ma. I told her, "I've hurt my tit, there's cactus pricks all over my tit." She laughed and said, "Excuse me." So I showed her. The gasp on horror on her face, I swear you'd have thought I'd spat on my granny's grave. She starts inspecting, pulls her phone out to use the torch. Obviously she's old, so it takes her 2 business days to turn on the torch of her 2014 Samsung Galaxy. I stand at the top of my stairs with one tit out. She looks and tells me she has a solution. A microfiber cloth. Something she's seen on TikTok. Suddenly, I got a case of the giggles, in pain but fucking pissing myself at this idea. She gets the cloth, proceeds to rub it over my tit to grab the small pricks out. It worked, excruciating but it worked. But my ma, it doesn't stop there. "We need to now cool your tit down because it looks raging red. You'd think some ice, frozen peas or even some cooled cabbage leaves." No, not my ma. Holy water, God bless your tit. I'll give her due, she also recommended cabbage later on. The whole time my father is sat on my sofa, watching the news. He walked into my kitchen and shouts upstairs, "What the fuck have you done?" Me, just as the THC reached its peak, runs downstairs with my ma. We go into the kitchen where my dad is. He's holding onto my very expensive Roman blind, with white spots all over it. I'd cleaned it with bleach while I was obviously melted on the THC, while I stood there, still braless, with my t-shirt up holding my right tit, exposed. Anyway, we had a steak pie and potatoes for dinner. It was grand. My father looked at the steak pie in the eye more than I, TLDR. I cleaned my kitchen, invited parents for dinner, got high and damaged my tit leaning over a cactus, which was soothed with holy water from my mother, and then proceeded to flash my father, had a nice but awkward steak pie dinner afterwards. Stories number 20. AITA for telling my ex-fiancée to cry me a river after she showed me a Reddit post she made about me. I, M28, used to be engaged to Ally, F26. She is a beautiful woman with a kind heart and an even kinder soul. We met in university and were inseparable ever since. About 1 year ago I proposed to her, she said yes, my family was happy, her family was happy, and I thought it was going to be happily ever after. Right after we got engaged she started acting weird towards my family, and she started saying stuff like how I prioritize them over our relationship and that I'm codependent, etc. At first I thought it was just engagement/marriage jitters or culture shock, but over time she started giving me ultimatums, one that eventually led to the dissolution of our engagement, whenever something came up with my family. Family info: I am Indian, from India, came to Canada when I was 1. I have 2 younger sisters ages 17 and 21. My dad passed away when my youngest sister was 2 and I was 12. My mother is a very strong woman who went from a som to working and taking care of 3 kids. My deepest respect to all you mothers out there. I had to step up for my mother and sisters since then, and hence I am very attached to them. My relationship with my sisters are mixed between parent and older brother. They tend to come to me for stuff before they go to my mother. Allison, is from the UK, she moved to Canada when she was 7. She has an ever so light cute British accent. Her father and mother are divorced and have remarried. She has an amicable relationship with both step-parents. She has one stepsister, 23F, possible sociopath and serious creep, on her mom's side, and a stepbrother, 16M, an angel incarnate, on her dad's side. She is not close with her sister, but she does talk to her and she has a friendly relationship with her brother. Also she lives with her dad. The AITA, so before our breakup she made a Reddit post about me and how I am codependent on my family. The comments on that post said that my family is toxic, and I need to set boundaries, how everything I am doing is a red flag, and that she needs to cut and run because I will ruin her life. Apparently the amount of people who commented for her to leave our relationship was enough to convince her to break up with me. So she came to me with an ultimatum: either I go low contact with my family or she will leave me. I told her no, and so she packed up and left that very same night. No discussion, no explanation. I loved her, I still do, and to me she was just as important as my family, but I'm not cutting of my family just because she said so. I tried reaching out to her, her friends, parents, even her colleagues, but no one knew what was up with her. See, at this point I did not know about the Reddit post. After a few weeks she called asking to meet up, and so we did. She told me needed time think about everything and that she felt like she was second place in my life to my family. I tried telling her that was not true and how much I cared about her, but then she brought up the ultimatum again. At this point I got irritated and was starting to get mad. Then she showed me the Reddit post and how you people agreed with her. She told me how she can't be with me if she wasn't the most important woman in my life while showing me all the Reddit people who were supporting her. I once again tried to tell that wasn't true and that she was just as important, but she wouldn't listen. I told her we can talk again after she calms down, but that apparently triggered her. She started insulting me and calling me names, then she started saying some mean things about my family. So I said, screw this, I'm done. She started bawling at this point and said that Reddit was right and called me some choice names. So I said, boo-hoo, cry me river, and promptly left. I needed some time to introspect, and it has been a few weeks since then, and I am drinking alone in a hotel room on a trip that I booked for both of us writing this out. I am asking the root of my problem. Did I cross the line? Am I the unholy? Aita for telling my ex-fiancée to cry me a river after she showed me a Reddit post she made about me. Info plus some answers to comments. Hello people of Reddit. I don't know if this is the best way to give more info, but if there is a better way please do tell. Sorry guys, I honestly do want to reply to all of you, but I'm a bit of mess and my brain isn't braining enough to go through them all. To start guys, we are not married. We broke up less than a year after I proposed. Ally and I have known each other for about 10 years now. We started as friends and she even met my family before we started dating. She knows my history and she knows the whole family dynamics. My family adores her and vice versa. Even after I graduated and moved away she used to visit my family and stay over. It got to the point that my mum cleared out half my shit so she could keep her stuff in my room. We now live on the opposite side of the country, closer to her father. We spend Christmas with her family and then I fly home for the New Year. Sometimes she joins me. I see my family twice a year, once during New Year's and then during summer for the girls' birthdays. Their birthdays are a week apart. Most of our communication happens over messages and I call my mum for a minute or two at night to check on her. We dated for 4 years before we got engaged and not once in that whole time did she tell me she has problem with how I interact with my family. She talks to my mum more than I do. A lot of people said that she has to be my number one and I can't split that place with anyone else, but that makes no sense to me. It is like asking who do you love more, mum or dad? I love them all, they all have different places in my heart. My mum gave birth to me, 18 years of blood, sweat and tears to raise me, my siblings who always have my back, for whom I will protect till my last breath. I love Ally just as much but in a different way. In a future where we had gotten married, yes, the rest of my family would have taken a back seat to her, just as if we had a child, that child would become my greatest priority. For those who were asking what exactly her problems were with me, apparently I'm too overprotective of my siblings. I set ground rules for them, give them advice, send them some spending money. I've gotten less involved now that they're older, especially the eldest. Why I have to call my mom every night, it's just something I've done since I went to uni, so for the past 9 years. It's more force of habit at this point. Those are the only things I remember her ever bringing up. There is one instance where I have bailed on Ally. It was during Christmas week. My sister had gotten into a car accident and so I flew back even though we had plans. Other than that I honestly don't know. We are both working, she has a 9 to 5 and I'm hybrid with a little bit of traveling involved. About her post. Honestly I don't even know where to start. The whole thing started with when I asked her when she was free to go visit my mother. Indian families have this tradition where the MIL gifts the bride jewelry. My mum wanted to pass something on to her. She said she wasn't free and she didn't want it, so I said you don't have to wear it, just take it as gesture. Then she went on to say all this stuff about how my relationship with my family isn't normal and how it's toxic and how I'm codependent. She started going in circles and I started getting mad, so I cut her off and told her to get to the point. She then gave me the ultimatum. Either cut down contact with my family or she needs to rethink this. I was pretty mad at this point and I just said no and she said fine and walked out. After a few minutes I calmed down and tried calling her but she wouldn't answer. The rest is as I've said. She went to her dad's, wouldn't talk to me. Her dad said she needed some space, so that's what I did, I waited for her. 2 weeks later she called me to talk. We met at a park and she told me she needed time to think about everything and that she felt like she was second place in my life to my family. Then she showed me the Reddit post and how people were agreeing with her. She told me how she can't be with me if she wasn't the most important woman in my life while showing me all the Reddit people who were supporting her. At this point I was flustered and angry and all I was thinking was WTF. I barely glanced at the post and that too was mostly the comments how I'm a red flag and how she should dump my ass and that she can do better. I have clicked on a lot of the posts people have been linking but so far no luck. FYI, I saw this one post people keep bringing up about a mother coming from India. That's not it info for cross-referencing. Ally is 26, my mother lives in Canada, my family is very liberal not super traditional, I grew up here since I was one to people who say I am the issue. Well I could be. People are oblivious to their own flaws to people who said I wrote this to feel justified. Honestly I came to Reddit looking for her post but ended up reading a lot of other people's posts and thought why not write my piece. Even if you guys ripped me a new one, I would accept it because at least then I could tell myself that I screwed up but as it stand I'm just confused and lost and sad with no clear answer. I do agree with everyone that the Crimea River was immature but I have very little patience for verbal abuse and no one is an exception to that rule. This is all I could think of. Thank you Reddit stranger for listening to my woeful complaints, I especially appreciate the kind messages. I feel much better after putting everything down. Also please message me if you find her post and if anyone has crazy theories shoot them my way. Stories number 21 I thought my new boyfriend was a great catch. Until I met his parents. How can you eat that, asked my date, gesturing towards his ribeye, when you could have this. I chuckled over my salad, spearing a cherry tomato with my fork. Simple, I said, being vegan makes me better than you. He laughed, too. It was my third date with Jeff, and we were beginning to get comfortable. As he flagged down a server for the check. I moved to pull my wallet from my purse. You know me, he said, grinning, ladies don't pay. How chivalrous, I said, sipping my wine, mama must be proud. Actually, he replied, handing his card to the server, I was wondering if you'd like to meet her. I let him put his arm around my waist as we walked to the car. Dinner at my house next Saturday. Later that night, I weighed my options in the shower. Jeff was a great guy, handsome, generous, friendly. But I had a secret I wasn't ready to share. All my life, I would see flashes. Visions, at every meal. I could feel what my food felt. I learned early in life that the taste of gentle rains and summer breezes was preferable to the taste of factory farm despair. Chickens grown so quickly their legs snap. Cattle flailing in their own blood on killing room floors. I felt it all. But when I remembered the deep blue of Jeff's eyes, the way my waist bent like willow into his powerful arms, I knew my decision was final. As Jeff made dinner, I made awkward small talk with his parents. How can you only eat plants? Asked Jeff's father, a wiry 65-year-old named Clyde with arms still knotted in muscle. Clyde, dear, his wife gently chided. I just don't like cruelty, I replied. Nothing cruel about where my boy gets his meat, Clyde said, proudly, he's a hunter, like his daddy. I was glad when Jeff interrupted the interrogation to set the table. Tonight's fare was a plate of grilled sausage and onions. He'd prepared a salad for me. Dinner was going well, until Clyde spoke up. Aren't you even gonna try it? He asked. It is good, Jeff's mother gently chimed in. Mom, Dad, don't force her, Jeff began. No, it's all right, I interjected. I didn't want to make a bad first impression. One moment of discomfort was a small price to pay. I took a tiny bite. And I gagged. I was running. Being chased through endless trees. But not on four legs. I felt a pair of rough hands pin me to the forest floor, my vision turning red as three merciless faces loomed above. Before I could speak, I felt Jeff's hand grip my hair. He began to drag me towards the basement stairs while his mother calmly cleared the table, his father smiling ear to ear. She as fresh as you said? Clyde asked. Jeff smiled as a gag was forced into my mouth. Practically grass-fed. Stories number 22. It was me and I never told anyone about it until now. So a few years ago, I used to work in a veterinary clinic. During a routine exam while I was performing a TPR, temperature, pulse, respiration, I felt a gassy fart brewing and knew that it would be one of those silent but deadly ones. I took a quick peek around the back office to make sure that I was alone before letting it out. This particular patient was ready for discharge and I was about to bring the dog out to his owner when the DVM walked past. I thought she had gone to lunch, stopped abruptly, took one quick sniff of the air and proclaimed, "Oh God." Feeling panicked, I quickly joined in on her self-proclamation by saying, I know right. Literally the dumbest thing I could have said. This specific provider actually owned the clinic that I was working out of and decided that the dog needed a bath before we could discharge him to the owner. No charge, free bath, an unnecessary bath. Who do you think she asked to bathe that dog? Stories number 23. I, 25F, found my husband's, 28M, secret phone. I am looking for some advice on whether or not I should confront my husband about a phone I have found in my apartment. So let's start with the backstory. I have been with my husband for 5 years and married for 3 out of those years. Recently I thought I was going mad because I could hear a phone vibrating like a notification was being received. I spoke to my husband about it and brought it up when I could hear it and we were in the same room. He said he couldn't hear anything and that it could be one of the other apartments around us. We do have thin walls. I let the matter drop until a few days ago when I could hear something ringing and vibrating almost non-stop. So I went hunting around for this phone thinking it could be possibly an old phone that had been left on or it was really another flat. As I was looking it began ringing and it was coming from my husband's nightstand. I opened the drawer and the sound got louder and I reached in and found a phone. It showed on the screen several missed calls and notifications from various apps. I couldn't unlock it and decided against trying to get into it further. I put it back and tried to give my husband the benefit of the doubt and that there must be a simple explanation for this. But I can't think of a reason to have a secret phone unless something is not right. He doesn't have a work phone and my husband is in the habit of selling old phones, so I don't think it's that. What would you do in my situation? Also, is there anything I could do to find out what is on this phone? I want to talk to him about it, but I am scared of his reaction and what might happen after. I am also using a friend's account to get some opinions as my husband loves Reddit. Since posting I went to try and look for the phone but it has been moved. A little update, I found the phone, I emptied my bin and it was underneath the bin bag, but its screen is smashed and I can't even turn it on and the SIM card is missing. I guess I'm never finding out what was on it. Thank you for all the advice. My husband got home from work and I asked about the phone. He said it was a friend's phone, that he accidentally broke. When I asked what friend it took him a minute to answer, kind of feel like he just made up a name. He has had this phone for months. If it was a friend's he would have returned it. I told him to find a way to show me that I can trust him and this phone is what he says or we can get a divorce. He stormed out and I've told him I don't want to talk about this until he is going to be honest. Just another small update, was thinking about another post but not enough to put there. I took it to a phone place I know and they are retrieving what's left on it. Husband hasn't been back but is non-stop calling and texting. Update, I, 25F, found my husband's, 28M, phone, so carrying on from my last post. Once I found the phone I took it to a place I know to have it searched. It won't be back for a few days. However, more problems have occurred. My husband left our apartment 2 days ago and I have been receiving loads of messages and calls. He has been saying he just needs a chance to explain and that it isn't what it looks like. But how can it be anything else but what it appears to be? I have told him he needs to give me space. He is refusing to accept this and even went so far to go up to my daughter while she was out with her dad. She's isn't my husband's child. He tried to get her to tell him what was going on and what I was doing. My daughter's father told me how uncomfortable she felt and that she shouldn't be involved in this issue we are having, and I assured him she isn't. While I was fuming at my husband I decided to rage clean and guess what I found? 2 more phones, receipts for jewelry and a few credit cards I had no idea existed. My husband and I have separate finances which I prefer, but we regularly updated each other about debts and other payments we were making. This was mainly due to us wanting to buy a house together at some point. So these lies go deeper than I originally thought. I have spoken to my friends and family and asked if they knew anything about this, but they didn't. I have sent pictures of everything to my husband demanding an explanation. He said he'll explain if I let him come over so we can do this face to face and that he loves me and wants this to work. I am hesitating. I said I'd meet him with the condition that someone else was present that I trust. He kicked off and said I was his wife and he should be able to see me when he wants. I said he lost that right when he cheated on me, and this man full on said, yeah, but it was only once. I have not spoken to him since. Now I need help. How do I proceed from here and keep things amicable? I still love him but I'm keeping my distance and have no plan to meet him face to face as I am weak and I know if I see him I'll probably stay with him. I know this may seem strange but it is my life and there are so many emotions going on for me right now. Stories number 24. Aita for changing all the locks on my house because my girlfriend keeps locking me out of the bedroom at night. Advice needed. My girlfriend, 36F, and I, 29M, moved into a house that I bought last year. We argued at first about what each room should be. 3 bedrooms, 1.5 baths, 2 living rooms, a garage and a back patio. I wanted an office and she wanted an office. At first I didn't want to, but I gave her the second largest room for her office and the largest became our bedroom. I took a significantly smaller room for my office. She occupied the second living room for herself. We slept together in the bedroom, as would any other couple for the first few months. We had arguments here and there but nothing major. After about 3 months, we had a big fight about decisions involving the house. Pest control, upgrades, modifications, etc. She said since it's my house, she will not be bearing any of the financial burden that would come of disposing of the pests and any issues that would come up with the modifications. I wasn't happy at first but in the end understood her point of view. I took on the financial responsibility. Shortly after this, I got mad and yelled at her during an argument regarding the pest control and the modifications she wants. It was after that point she started locking the bedroom door at night, forcing me to sleep elsewhere. I tried taking the bedroom earlier than her one night, but she just sat there, keeping me from sleeping until I left the room. It took about 1 month for her to get over it and we started sleeping together again. This was short-lived. We went on Christmas vacation together, all expenses paid for by me. First-class seats and fancy hotel. Vacation was great. Once we got back, we ran some errands together and upon returning, she refused to help bring anything inside. She was distant and shut the door on me while I was bringing things inside. I confronted her about it, to which she said, I needed to get into the closet, I didn't care about your needs, to which I yelled at her again. She went right back to locking the bedroom door on me. I went away for work for 2 weeks and once I returned, she still locks the door. I was fed up with it and changed all the locks in the house. While I was changing the locks, she started videotaping me and asking what I was doing. I know my yelling is a direct result of the actions she's taking, but am I the asshole for getting fed up with getting locked out of my own house? P.S. I haven't locked her out of anywhere except my office. She still has access to the rest of the house. Edit. She pays a portion of the mortgage since some people thought she wasn't paying rent or anything. Edit 2. I confronted her about it. I told her the sleeping arrangement ends tonight. I'm currently in bed and she has chosen to sleep on the couch. And no, I didn't lock her out. We'll update you as it's her birthday tomorrow. TLDR, anytime my girlfriend and I get into an argument, she retaliates by punishing me by locking me out of the stories.